road at night, cause you come with your light so bright, like you want blind me for spite. It is overbearing. Me and you never had no war. Why you spot the light on me for? Is it accidental or you just someone caring? Every day you go here complaining all the things that ain't going right. From now on I will be explaining which place you could spot the light. Spot the light in the parliament and see who is looking out for you or barely fooling we. Spot the light the right places and find out who is on the people's side and who's selling out. Don't spot it on me, you joke. I don't get no port when girls coming in. I am sure cowboys and Indians, no, don't spot it on me, you idiot. When taxpayers' money waste, don't spot it in my face. You better spot the light man who run the place. I don't run the government. I know if the computer, don't spot it on me, Posey. Spot the light on the DLP. Oh yeah, yeah. Aye, aye, aye. Malaka. Blinding you with the LEDs. Them that are doing as the thieves. I don't tell the authorities. I feel violated. Go spot them in the treasury. Then you will see if the economy living off borrowed money that IMF dictated. Light is a great disinfectant. Use it, don't abuse it at night. Cause all that hide in the darkness must come out in the light. Spot the light in the board meetings and see who is representing you or the rich minority. I want you spot the light in the right places and find out who is standing up for you or just running them out. Don't spot it on me, no way. I don't have any clout, no power, no say, but hey, and I ain't got no land to give away. Don't spot it on me, you idiot. One fired, another one quit. Don't target me one bit. You better spot the light on the cabinet. I may drive and get annoyed. Check my front and touch your boy. Don't spot it on me, you insane. You spot the light in the wrong lane. Aye, 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 aye. Balaka. When you see me on the road at night, make sure that you dim your light. I give you valuable insight. Time for activation. Aim the light, aim it all about. Human cockroaches running out. Places you will never dream about. Need illumination. Wickedness reside in high places. Time for you to make wrong things right. Corruption is hiding dark spaces. In Barbados, let there be light. Spot the light on the police, you can choose. Some are real professional, some protect their shoes. Spot the light in the courtrooms and find out why them hardened criminals out here walking about. Don't spot it on me, you're free. I can't give a big speech, I've got the whole world, so I'm based. All now I still getting praise. Don't spot it on me, you're free. I ain't looking at the George Street, I know who get cussed or beat. Spot the light out in Robert Street. I never tried to meet with Trump or get some fed up man to jam. Don't spot it on me, you're good. Spot the light in El Rapport. Crime out here getting worse. Spot the light on the AG first. I ain't laughing out none. Spot the light on the Kaisonian. Admiral might agree. Spot the light on my friend Gabby. I know what's good for my health. Spot the light by your blinking self.
And a great good evening to all of you joining us here at the Marcia Week Show as we conclude the singing of the national anthem and the playing of the national anthem. We want to share together our national pledges, is my custom when I host the show. And so tonight, I want you to join with me as we recite our national pledge. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. Good evening, loyal opposition, and welcome to this Monday, September the 8th, Marcia Week Show. It is a joy of mine yet again to host this show. I had the distinct honor of doing so last night due to some previous engagements that Marcia had. And I was honored to have been with you and had a really great team with us last night covering a number of subjects. And we thank you so very much for your support, not only on the shows, but in the marches. We did have a great march on Saturday. A good number of people turned out. We were pleased to see the increasing numbers, but we need to carry them even further and have larger numbers coming out so that the government understands that the people of Barbados, not any specific individual, not any specific political party, but the people, the voice of the people, the Republic of Barbados, by the people, of the people, for the people, are not satisfied with their performance. And so we want to encourage you to join us for our next march. That will be not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday. That would be September the 20th. We are inviting you to join us for that second march as well in September. And we really look forward to having you there with us on that Saturday morning. Tonight, we are grateful to have all of you joining us. And again, people such as Judith Ann Clark and Beverly Prescott. Oh my goodness, so many. I saw someone from New Jersey. I hope I can find them later on tonight. But Flo Joe, great to have you with us again. Cedric Strawn, a pleasure to have you joining us this evening. Lucinda Aline, Monica Ince, Teroni Hall. Teroni, was great to see you on Saturday and to hear you sharing. Queen D, pleasure to have you back with us tonight. Diana Husbands, Marcia Miller, a real joy to have you joining us. Vernon and Mildred, great to have you here this evening. Marcia, great to have you too, and thank you for meeting with me on Saturday. Well, it was a pleasure. Born again at 48, M. Gardner, Tony Paris, Sandra Charles, Sir Alfred Benjamin, my friend out of Brooklyn, New York. But Sir Alfred, we have someone here tonight from New Jersey, and I believe that would be Bridget Hall. And welcome, Bridget, all the way from New Jersey. A joy to have you with us tonight. Izzy, or I think that's Izzy, Tony Paris, yes, Joyanne, a pleasure to have all of you joining us this evening. Cameron and let me see here. Sam Igbo. I hope I have that right, Sam. I don't want to destroy your name. A pleasure to have you with us as well. What a joy. What a joy. And what an honor it is for me to be with you. And we're looking forward to a great, great show tonight. All right. We are going to ask you to share, share, share. Whatever you do, share. Share on YouTube, share on Facebook, give us the thumbs up so that the algorithms in those areas will be identified and we will have a more prominent position with regards to our show here in Barbados. All right. And a pleasure again to have all of you with us. Let me also again tonight extend our gratitude, particularly on behalf of my wife, for the support that you have given to her. She has been just overwhelmed with how the loyal opposition has responded. And we are doing, pretty okay. The GoFundMe needs to get moving. And we are still grateful, nevertheless, for the donations and the contributions that persons have made for us. I don't know if I think Dave might have that GoFundMe page that he can just flash on the screen for a moment. But I just want to say thank you for all of the support, and particularly do I want to thank Dave and Marcia for giving us the opportunity even to share it here on the show. And you know, we are working assiduously. She has an appointment to this month here in Barbados before we set out to get overseas. We've been so blessed, and God has been providing for us. And again, she has just been believing Him and walking in that faith that we embrace, and we believe we are Christians. We believe in the Lordship of Jesus Christ. We are not religious. We are not engaging, debates and dialogues and wars with other faiths or any. We just believe in Jesus. We believe that He's the Son of God, that He came and died on the cross for our sins, so that through His death we can have access directly to the Father, and that we can seek God's help as we sing in our national anthem. The Lord has been the people's guide. And so we are grateful to God for how He's been keeping her. And we look forward to, Him completely rejuvenating her entire being, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And we are thankful to all of you for your contribution. Well, there is the GoFundMe page. And if you are viewing from outside of Barbados, you can go to that page, make your donation as you wish. She's always quick to tell me it doesn't matter how small any donation is, every bit counts. And so we want to say thank you for your support. Thank you so very, very much. As I move on into tonight again, I want to make a few comments as we go into the program this evening. And I want to touch on a couple of things. I want to touch on the matters of integrity legislation, just touch on it. The disclosure of the assets of our parliamentarians, unkept promises, and so forth. I just want to touch on a few things tonight. I have a few minutes that I can share this with you and bring your attention to a few things. I mean, we have been on the a ball with a number of issues in the country. As you know, we have just recently had the resignation of the Minister of Housing, and we are not satisfied with the fact that he has walked away from accountability for the mismanagement of this ministry and the mismanagement of the Hope Project to the tune of $60 million without any accountability, without any sanction, nothing. Now, give you grant, the Prime Minister had committed herself to an investigation into the Hope Project over a year ago. To date, we have heard absolutely nothing. All we know is that she continues to fly all over the world, not speaking for Barbados, not speaking per se for the Caribbean, but speaking for climate change. And I keep saying that I'm going to touch on this climate change thing one of these nights, and my wife keeps saying to me, you need to stop saying that and just deal with it. But there are a number of things in the realm of climate change that we are going to be engaging. For example, we know that the governor of Florida, DeSantis, I think is his name, has forbidden geoengineering of the climate in Florida. We were told that that was a conspiracy theory. We were told that that was misinformation. Well, I'm here to tell you tonight that the authorities around the world, they're scientists, I'm not going to point my finger per se at any country, but they are messing with the climate. This is not something to do with natural climate matters. They are interfering with the climate. I had a video of a lady who works with them, and she made the point that in an area where there are no aircraft, not even military, she could see these trails that were turning into clouds and bringing rain in certain parts of the US. I remember, I think it was in either Dubai or Abu Dhabi, where they attempted to seed clouds, and it resulted in a massive flood in that area. So people are fooling around with the climate. It is not simply a matter of climate change. And I wish that our Prime Minister would get the facts and not just fall into the trap of the agenda and rhetoric which was started by Al Gore back in 1980, I think it was. He's the person who began this whole matter of sustainable development and climate change and all that rubbish. And every single prediction he has made subsequent to his announcing this matter, nothing has materialized where that is concerned. And interestingly, former president of the United States of America, who was one of the people to hailing the matter of climate change, bought a multi-million-dollar mansion on the coastline where heights are supposed to be rising. Why would you go do that if you know there's an issue of climate change? But I'm just going to leave that there because I didn't come prepared to deal with that tonight. I did have in mind to touch on the matters of the aspect of what the World Economic Forum is seeking to push in terms of the agenda around the world, with something that we have heard mentioned over and over and over again. I think I heard it mentioned here concerning everybody in our country receiving an income, a universal basic income, where nobody will have to work. I think the famous saying, famous phrase of that particular agenda is "you will own nothing and be happy." I believe that was expressed in one of the Davos meetings by Charles Schwab from the World Economic Forum. It is not their original expression, but they took it from an experimental thing that was written by someone and expressed it as a part of their agenda 2030, by 2030. And I don't want to take the time to get into it right now, but you know, it really translates into the wealth, the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, and we are seeing that happening right here in Barbados. But let me touch on a few things before my time runs out. The first thing I want to mention tonight is the matter of integrity legislation. This needs to be brought to Parliament and passed. This was promised in the 2018 election. I believe it was then the candidate, but now Deputy Prime Minister, who announced that they had integrity legislation ready. As a matter of fact, they were threatening to lock up members of the former administration when they got into office, and they committed themselves to the disclosure of assets. To date, we have heard nothing, we have seen nothing. Nothing has happened. Again, I refer to the matter of the unkept promise by our Prime Minister with regards to the Hope Project. And at least, I can't say at least, I don't think that's the right reference. We haven't got a republic constitution up to now. The one thing that was changed in the current constitution, and there are those who keep saying to me that we don't have a constitution. We do have a constitution. The aspect of the president was amended in the constitution, but Barbados has an independent constitution. When we became independent, we do not have a republic constitution, but there is a constitution in place in Barbados where the governor general, it was amended to reflect the president as opposed to the governor general. That is like, you know, painting over things and no substance with regards to that. As I sat preparing for tonight and taking a look at all the things that were happening, we are seeing, as you saw, the Afro-Exim Bank getting a $150-something million piece of property in Gemmas Lane free of cost, but our farmers having hell to get support from the government where farming is concerned in Barbados. And let me make note to you, carried in one of the editions of the Barbados Today was the fact that Barbados was now entering into a partnership. I would like to know the details of it, a memorandum of understanding with a foreign investor. The article does not tell us who the foreign investor is. We don't know who this foreign investor is. I don't understand why things have to be kept so secretive from the people of this country. But we are being told that our Sea Island, let me make sure I get this right. Our Sea Island cotton industry is going to be we're going to be entering into a partnership with a private entity. They're going to be investing into the industry here in Barbados. I hope we maintain controlling interests and don't lose this as well as we have lost so much else around our country here today in Barbados. But as I was preparing, I thought to myself, things are in chaos in this country, and it reminded me of a comedy series, and I had to laugh and say, but if it wasn't so serious, it would really be comedy. It would really be comedy. And here is the thing that we are looking at: foul ups, bleeps, and blunders. Foul ups, bleeps, and blunders. 1984 comedy series that was aired on ABC and aired here on CBC. This is what we are experiencing today. These are the issues we're facing today. I understand schools were not ready, but we're going to be hearing more about that in the not too distant future here on the program tonight. We're not rehashing anything. These are the current issues that we're dealing with at the moment. These are the things that are facing us here in the country. We are not getting the transparency, we are not getting the accountability that was promised, and the persons who are now in administration committed themselves to during the election campaign. And that is what we are requiring here in Barbados. We are demanding it as citizens for the government to make an account, to give account of their stewardship to the people of the country, and to be transparent in all of their dealings. Yet it seems that whenever something is done in this country, it seems to be done in secret. It seems to be done when the people of Barbados are distracted in other areas, and bills are being passed through Parliament, things are being implemented, arrangements are being made, and we don't even hear about it. As a matter of fact, I think just last night we touched on the fact that we only learned after our prime minister left the country that she was traveling. And I must say that there's some degree of concern that we ought to have, for should something happen, God forbid, we wouldn't even know the lady is out the country. But that is the case as we have it tonight. So I really want to leave these thoughts with you tonight. And particularly as I close off my segment, I do particularly want to thank God for the protection He has been given us so far through this hurricane season, and the miraculous shifts and changes that we have seen happen in the last couple of days. Let me close this section with two little verses of scripture, if I can. And some of my colleagues have been critical of me because, as a Christian minister, some of them think I shouldn't be in politics. You shouldn't be involved in the political aspect of Barbados. And I had to make the point that if you were to check out the scripture, and if you were to check out Jesus was a master politician. You really need to pay attention to him and how he functioned when he was on the earth. But let me make these two comments and close. In the second verse of the 97th Psalm, the scripture tells us that the foundation of God's throne is righteousness and justice. For no other reason, ministers of the gospel should be involved in what is going on in this country, because there are matters of righteousness, or things that should be done right, and justice, which form the foundation of God's throne. And if it forms the foundation of God's throne, then I think every one of us should be involved in what is happening in our country. And then secondly, in 1 Timothy chapter 2, it speaks about praying for those in authority. Petitions, prayer, intercessions, and prayers of thanks for all people, for rulers, and for everyone who has authority over us. Pray for the people so that we can have a quiet, peaceful life, always lived in a godly and reverent way. The one thing that portion of scripture doesn't say is the type of prayers that we're to pray. It doesn't tell us that we're to pray that they remain in office. If you were to follow some of David's prayers, you will discover that he actually prayed for his enemies to be killed. Not that we are going to pray that kind of prayer, but we are going to pray for exposure. We are going to pray for those who are involved in matters that would compromise the integrity of our country to be exposed. We're seeing it happening all over the world. United States, you've seen it happen in Canada. You're seeing it happen all over the world. It's happening right here in Barbados. Well, that's my comments as I start out tonight. And I want to welcome my first guest. I want to really get straight into the evening and let us get the show kicked off by inviting, our first guest, Mr. Glenn Murray. A pleasure to have you joining us tonight, Glenn. It's always a joy of mine to have you on the show whenever you're on, and I have the opportunity to be here with you. I always learn so much, particularly some of those old time Barbadian expressions.
Yeah, there's a
And
lot more to come. I,
I have no doubt.
it is only by doing these things that we perpetuate our
Yes,
culture.
yes,
Cultures
sir.
aren't just big buildings or paintings or song, those little things. So in
Yes,
regular life, that the culture is your whole life. And if we don't, we will get drunk out by America and Jamaica, and we'll have nothing. We will just be regurgitating what they produce. But I want to say it's a pleasure to be with you again, too, Freddie. Sorry, Dr. Ferdinand.
no, that's
And
fine.
I,
Glenn. I tell people, I know everything has its protocol, but I tell people that when my mother named me, she didn't name me Reverend Doctor. She named me Ferdinand, and
Freddie,
my birth certificate does not carry any of those things.
okay.
So that's
Thank you very
fine.
much. Okay,
Uh,
that sets me at ease then.
right, great,
But I will
wonderful.
not take advantage of that and become overduly familiar. I still have to maintain a certain decorum and respect for you as a
I,
person.
as I would for you as a former
Oh,
minister
you know
on
me.
stage, I think you would.
I don't like to dwell on the former. Be with me now. I am me now.
Yes, yes,
But
absolutely.
just
Ah,
let me make one quick correction before we go on any further. You had said in your preamble about the Afrexim Bank getting $155 million in land. No, it was over 220 million.
oh yes, you're right. You're
220
right.
million
Yeah,
dollars.
you're actually correct.
More than that. So don't
Yes,
shortchange the deed that has been done,
yes,
and the misdeed that has been
220.
done to Barbados. I don't hold your breath. The Prime Minister come and give any insight into these things. I think she's made it clear that she does what she does. When she feels like talking about, she talk. Otherwise, we just live with it and move on. But you know what I always to say? Every day God is saying, "Dead is right tonight, run tonight, catch it."
Okay, yes, that's
Right?
another one.
Right. Okay. I just want to, before I get into my main topic, I have a couple of minutes I want to talk about. You remember last week, you weren't here, but last week I would have raised the question of what the public considered the disrespect and the mishandling that was beat out to the mighty Grand Serenade by not including them in anything for Carrie Festa, even on the vintage Calypso Super Concert, for which they would have qualified on every possible level. But I got some calls and some information afterwards that, particularly where grain is concerned, that we only scratch the surface and that there's a much more overriding and important situation involved a government agency, not the NCFS, another government agency, Mighty Grain. It has to do with the Mighty Grainer's house, his own house, which he has owned and lived in for a number of years.
Hmm.
And from my information, some advances were made towards him to refurbish it, redesign it, rebuild it from one, which is quite good. He's getting on in age. He's one of our cultural icons. He had to be treated fairly and with respect and whatnot. But so this work was begun more than 2 years ago. And what has happened, from what I'm told, that he had this house, good, for reasonably good country, but what used to be now, as a result of the intervention of the state agency, for what I'm told, it was the then Urban Development Commission, which is now Urban and Rural Development Commission. So they redesigned the house, refashioned the house, where now what was a 3-bedroom house had been reduced to 2 bedrooms. And this is going on for the past 2 years or so. He still doesn't have full use of his kitchen. The kitchen is not finished. He doesn't have proper carpets in the kitchen. There are no wardrobes or in the back in his bedroom. He can't store his furniture. There's not enough room to store his
What?
furniture. So he's really quite. And the kind of man, he would never complain. In fact, he would be probably very upset that his neighbors and friends have sought to be involved in this. But they feel that it's about time that the Urban Development Commission uh, fulfill its duty and complete the very laudable gesture, what's out to be a very noble and laudable gesture, because of the delay and tardiness and the discomfort meted out to Mighty Grenada has now become a source of embarrassment and discomfort and annoyance to his friends and neighbors. So they thought they should air it to see if that would spur anybody into action, because it should not take the Urban Development Commission 2 years. I just said, what happens if people periodically visit and measure and make promises for them to, and then they don't turn up? So there's been no advancement. And we think it's about time that is done to treat him with respect and complete the job, right? And so they're looking for. They thought I should put this in the public place and make sure that he can be comfortable and easy in his own premises. So thank you very much for allowing me that off
Absolutely,
record,
absolutely.
but I thought it was worth the effort.
That's terrible. Absolutely
Right.
terrible. Yes.
Okay. I want to therefore get into my main topic, which, what's it called? It has to do with the stunning dismissal or resignation of Mr. Dwight Sutherland, the former Minister of Housing and Lands and Maintenance. So my topic tonight is I'm asking a question. Dwight Sutherland, a case of political self-destruction? Dwight Sutherland, a case of political self-destruction? I'm asking a question, because I can't assert positively when you don't have all the facts. But based on what has happened so far, I thought I should frame it in that manner. I think, but I'm speaking not only on what was said or was done, but my interaction with Mr. Sutherland dating back to 2013, right? And as a result of that, I am not surprised that this has happened, because I thought, as I said to myself and a friend, he was based on this attitude of arrogance and pompousness that was exhibited in 2013, even before he won the seat, when they had to interact with him at a number of meetings. But thereafter, in 2013, when he won his seat, his persona outgrew him, his ego and whatever. So this is his attitude and his behavior up to that point, and since then, for what I understand, seemed to be tailor-made for self-destruction. It is said from those who have worked with him that his pompousness, his arrogance grew in stature, grew in volume. It was accentuated once he won the seat. And I remember after he won the seat in 2013, we then had a closer and longer interaction when I was then working with the BLP, or for the BLP, and I over the years had worked with a conference arrangements committee, a committee that came together, a voluntary committee that came together, helped to organize the annual conference. So for many years, I had played a part, along with the late Dame Patricia Simmons and others. We would go and help deal particularly with the conference booklet and other aspects of the protocol to make sure that the conference had a certain level of maturity, well organized, and taste based on traditional standards by over the years. So he was chairman. He became chairman of the 2013 annual conference committee. And from the outset, he had a totally different attitude and approach to what we've been accustomed to by prior previous chairpersons. It was disrespect. He came in a very unorthodox style, not playing due deference to his seniors in years and experience. Because he didn't just come to the party, he came in his favorite bar. He tried to tell you that he made it seem as though he was the most intellectually gifted, brightest person in the room because he was a trained and qualified engineer. So he thought that gave him greater insight, skills, and ability and experience than anybody. So everything was he'd seen that in the context of he was and we were not. But I may remember that I've known good engineers and bad engineers, just like I've known good ministers and bad ministers, just like I've known good ex-ministers and bad ex-ministers. So that was part of his attitude, um, and so that's shown through the whole deliberation of the conference. And what really brought it to the fore was that about 3 or 4 days before the actual conference, it was suddenly realized, he was the chairman, that there were certain basic things that should have been done to the venue, which was then St. George Secondary School, which had not been done. Now here's this great engineer who boasted that he had worked at a rock cement plant for many years. He was in charge of this, and he's engineering, so he had all these skills. But a basic man of a conference is a static institute. It has more, but it's basically an annual, predictable, organized event that takes a certain format year after year. But he, with all his skills, he could not, therefore, it meant that 3 or 4 days before the conference, it was raised that nobody checked on the conditions of the grounds of the building, and a rescue team had to be organized right away to be able to bring everything in line. They had to go and cut the grass and paint the building and check the washrooms, all that in a hurry. And it was done by a very capable young man called Mr. Kurt Haynes, who is now the Deputy Consul General in Toronto. So I've always judged him by how this great ability which he professed, that really material in as basic and simple a task. So, and they tell me too that even as a minister, those who worked with him said that he seemed to have enjoyed and reveled in the post, in the status of being a minister, more so than the role and function activities of getting things done. It was very important to him that he was a minister, and that was it. And therefore, if you look, I'm not surprised, because that probably helps to explain why, if you remember, when he first went in the government in 2018, he was Minister of Business and Small Business and Commerce or something like that. Then he was switched to sports and youth and community development, and then he switched to housing and lands and maintenance. So, and in all those previous portfolios, he never really distinguished himself. There's not as positive and memorable. I try to watch these things very carefully, particularly when he caught my ear. I was hoping to see how he would develop. It was not outstanding that he did, except you would probably best remembered for the whole fiasco, disgrace, or whatever else has involved with that. No pun intended. We intend to make sure that more information is come to either under this government or another government. Another government should, if this government continues to defy public, another government should do an exhaustive investigation, and properly conducted by well-trained individuals. Give us a true picture, because $60 million is a lot of money. Really, really is outstanding. And not only the sum of money, what it has done to what is so tragic about Mr. Sutherland's failure, I'm not even dealing with his so-called resignation, is that he has failed in a field for which his own party, the Barbados Labour Party, would have had an outstanding reputation over the years, along with the Democratic Party, of consistently producing houses for the working class of Barbados. Going back to the 1940s with the Barbados Labour Party, when you have had Goodland and Belfield and some of those areas, that's where the working class got improved housing, especially after Jeanette in 55. And we built on. So that housing, let me say this, housing, health, education, and transport and work, and the condition of roads are 4 basics that were the bedrock of Barbados development, that people used to take pride in. And for us to see that all 4 of them are stumbling down from pillar to post, and there seems to be no coherent philosophical policy that brings them all this, that they, to underline and reinforce their basic importance to the quality of life of all of Barbados. And I thought it must have been quite embarrassing. By the time when Barbados True Carry Festival was open to the world and showing the world that you couldn't even take, some people could not risk taking persons for a drive up East Coast Road, St. John and St. Joe, St. Thomas, because of the condition of roads. Roads which we were well known for our good roads, extensive roads. I want to say that Barbados had one of the most extensive network of paved roads in the world.
In the world, yes.
Because of, I have to give the so-called colonialists of the time praise, because they had to build factories to get the canes to and from the cane to the factory. So we had this extensive of paved road, more so than even larger countries. So he's made so that's one tragedy. But I also want to talk that Mr. Sutherland also let me down considerably. This is what really disappointed me considerably. Even before he resigned, you remember that after the justifiable hullabaloo or outcry and disapproval of Hope, the expose on it, that he made a pledge where he said that, I remember the phrase, he was going to be revolutionizing housing in Barbados through the replacement of the artisanal method with the industrial method. So I said that sounds very interesting. Some gobbledygook, very fancy language, but what does it mean? What he really meant, when you stripped it down, artisans, artisanal, how you might pronounce this, are people that carpenters and masons, plumbers, joiners, the whole cadre that we have built over the years. He was dropping that for what he called industrialized method, which is only just mechanical industrialized, which was just concrete slabs. And he took great pride in the fact, so you were destroying a whole way of life just to satisfy. I don't understand why he went, but don't forget after part of his record show, the public record show, that after he was laid off from Arbat cement plant, even though he promoted himself as this brilliant, successful and bright engineer, he was laid off or severed, what you may call it, with Arbat. And then he had a job for a while with Rock Hard Cement.
Rock Hard Cement.
Rock Hard Cement, right? Rock Hard Cement with Mark Maloney. And coincidence of coincidences, who's the greater manufacturer of concrete slabs and industrialized method of housing? That's very serious. So, I was very disappointed that he could seek to bamboozle and talk big and fast and not producing a good. But I also want to talk to him a bit about his method of handling his resignation or dismissal. I think both he and the Prime Minister dealt with it badly, but I will deal with the Prime Minister on another occasion. I will deal with Mr. Sutherland. And his pompousness and his arrogance came through, where he seemed to have deluded himself that it was a triumph and achievement. I had to resign or be fired. And he made the asinine, stupid statement for a big qualified engineer that he welcomed it, virtually that he would now have more time to spend with his constituents. He didn't spend with, he didn't say spend working with or with. So he was looking for a line, the kind of line he saw where he was celebrating or commemorating his departure from cabinet. Now, everybody knows that as a minister, you have more access to power, opportunity, patronage. There's often a trade-off among ministers about if I'm in health, I might be able to have someone who in housing because they want a job or something done. So they trade off in that. backbenchers have a hell of a time getting themselves attention, and sometimes it causes um, friction within the cabinet. And even though right now you understand there's a lot of there's some quite dissatisfaction among cabinet members over the state of roads in some people's constituencies. They're just not happy with how the roads are being fixed and allocated and whatnot. So so being delivering to your constituents is what you go to what you go into parliament for.
That's right.
So for a man to celebrate with it, if you notice in the pictures, you have to watch these details. He was hugging and kissing his constituents more than they were hugging and kissing him. Now, if they were pleased that he was the cabinet, they'd be hugging them.
They'd be hugging him up. Oh yes.
But he was trying to show like he loved them so much, so loved him. He's such a jolly fella that he became the life of the party, the life of the party and party. I'd like to call it. So I thought that was silly, because now as a backbencher, he would no longer have access to jobs, opportunities. He's going to make less money as a minister, which gives him less resources to have to spend with his constitution. So for all of them have to put some of their money into their constitution, even though they get a constituency allowance, etc. There always calls for supplementing. They have their charity, but there's also he's not going to have a greater call in, but a call an increase or even call on him with lesser resources, unless he has independent sources of income. So I'm saying there was no need for him to take that route and pretend that this is one of the greatest things that happened to him and to the party. When in truth and fact, he's in a weakened state, and one has to wait and see how and if and when he will recover, whether he will be put out of pasture for a while and then brought back in, or maybe might be given a consultancy or special envoy somewhere to one of the other ministries and get some other funds to help bring his pay close to what it was as a minister. But the prestige and status of a minister cannot be replaced by a boost in earnings through being a consultant or a special envoy or whatever. So a lot depends on what happens in the future, how much more information comes out about in the future, or any other activities in that ministry, and then that will probably help what comes out or does not, or how it's treated, how it's managed, how the public accept it. That could help justify how long, where he goes from here in the cabinet of Barbados or whatever. So that is my take on and I think that his attitude led him to this, because even when he was leaving office, he was not humble and meek and careless. He had to be center of attention and make him feel like he's the happiest MP backbencher in Barbados right now. But I want to add diverse slightly and just make a note of something which I refer to from time to time. And it has to do with crime. Is it my imagination, or this is almost 4, 5, 6 months now that Mr. Kurt Humphrey has been named Minister of Crime Prevention. So far, he has not produced a comprehensive statement onto his intentions, plan, finding, a policy driven to open your eyes. As a matter of fact, he has been outstripped. He's been beaten in that regard by Minister Childblack making a minister's statement on the floor of the House. He has not done the same. And it worries me, because people are still blaming the Attorney General for crime, the current crime situation. I mean, when ex-Minister Corey Lane had his name, he was involved, he was identified with it. He was talking and doing things. You might not have always agreed with what he said or did, but he identified he was involved. Now there's this situation where Mr. Humphrey's name is not linked. Even when they check the website, the press does not even refer to him as Mr. Kerr Henry. He's minister of well, Community Development and Elder Affairs, Social Development, Community Development. I forget the name. You know, sort of empowerment or elder affairs, something. But there's no mention even in the press as identify him. And I think that he has to come to the public. I think the time nearly 6 months ago, he comes to the public. I'll put on marker so we can judge him what has been going on in the last few months. I understand from my sources that mostly what has been going on, that there's been a very strong training program on about on healing. I understand the program is run by sociologists, somebody with religious background. So they're spending, and this consultant gets from about $10,000 to $11,000 a month. But I understand that then there's another program where seminars on healing, training sessions on healing are being conducted, right? And at the same time, but the cost is $45,000 to $50,000 a month in that alone. That is my information. If it is incorrect, I stand corrected. I would correct it. I would point it out. But so people who are watching, people in the ministry are saying, how comes all this money being spent? But you're not seeing any result. The public is not being communicated. The public not being brought up to date. It's still either the AG or the Commissioner of Police. I did hear Minister Humphrey at one point say that he had been to Chicago with a team and they had overseen some methods and techniques and policies. But so far, nothing has been brought to the public. So why should we have a minister of crime prevention, a silent minister of crime prevention, an unidentified minister, when all others have had to pay their dues? And I think that is more than time that Mr. Humphrey come and bring his open innings, because he's not open our eyes yet. He's thinking, and as though I would like to see the same fervor and frequency with which he addresses social services sector, the amalgamation of agencies, child care, the elderly, all the disabled, all laudable and admirable and necessary. I'd like to see him address the same oratory and frequency of thought and delivery on crime prevention, what he's doing about it, what he's done about it, what he intends to do further about it. I'm almost out of my time, but I don't know if you want to ask a question before I wrap up.
Well, I mean, when we look at what has been happening in the country in terms of crime, I think I saw recently as well an article in the Barbados today where the police service have done an installation of CCTV cameras, I believe, in the Pine. I think somewhere in the Pine area, there are some facial recognition cameras and so on. When you look at what is happening, and you're not hearing anything, any plans, the only thing we're hearing, Glenn, is tint. If we remove the tint from the vehicles, then crime will end. And all of the police will be safe, the criminals will be exposed. As long as the tint comes off the cars, all will be well. So it seems, it's like we're dealing with a lot of a lot of knee-jerk policies and solutions. Things have not been sat down and thought through.
Or present, if they haven't presented. If you, in the absence of information, you cannot gain enthusiasm or support for something on which you know little or nothing. But where the cameras are concerned, they're not only in the Pine, they're around. I've seen some of my Lord's areas. They're down around the city. They're all over Barbados.
Yes.
And I understand they play a major role in being able to capture people on vehicles involved in crime. So they have their role. I would like to see that maybe that is the same approach has been. I as a civilian, as a member of the public, I am prepared. I have no worry about being on camera anywhere you go. Right?
Correct.
As a person.
Correct.
I think that same approach should be adopted at the port and at customs, where should be cameras. If you can have cameras on the streets for civilian people like you and I, why can't they have cameras installed at customs? I settle this confusion and this secret finger pointing and blaming so that everybody is open, everybody can be monitored, and that to me that in itself is a deterrent. It would replace the unreliable, unpredictable a suspicious, uh, what do you call it, lie detector test program. And I think everybody will be more open to a more verifiable and trusted, because you would have tapes of what you have, and therefore you'd have backup of measures. So therefore, I think that will help to claim this. And this is not new to Barbados. It's happening
No,
all over the world. All
no,
right.
but wasn't that tried? If my mind serves me correctly, Glenn, there was an attempt to do that under the Arthur administration, if I remember, and there was real outcry from the staff in customs and so
Because
on.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. That's one long-term resistance.
Hmm.
All it does is that it has perpetuate rumors and suspicions. And if it can be exposed on the public, why if the camera, why can't you in your care or your various activities as a civilian, why can't the same thing be done to everybody? And not only that, any other, there should be cameras in the hospital, anywhere in this day and age where people's activities can be monitored properly.
Well,
So that
you have it in the banks, you have it on bank machines. I mean, I've been into regular stores. The cameras are all over the place.
right. So that's my contention in that regard. And if I have another minute or so. Uh,
Yeah, I think you have about 2 minutes,
2 minutes. Oh, okay. Let me go back then
a
to
little
the.
less than 2 minutes.
All right. Let me go back then to the question of NCF. As you know, I've been a frequent critic of the NCF, particularly even when the injustices we out to recently to Serenada and Griner about the selectivity, the highly selective manner in which certain persons are chosen and rewarded for on the shows, even like Harry Fester and other activities. Whom I call the most favored artist, MFA, most favored artist, is a group, a team that just rolls over and rolls over. I am told that one. So I was saying, I was wondering what they might have been paid to appear at Fexter and their frequency. They say that my information is that they do not get paid for every time they appear on a show because they are regular, they're almost on staff of the NCF. They say they get something between $6,000 and $8,000 a month, right? So therefore, they are therefore on staff, and therefore like they're hired on staff to appear when they want to. So therefore, that they don't get massive sums for public appearances because it's all part for some of them on what I'm told of their regular duties and their ongoing financial and employment engagement with the NCF. So I hope that further helps too. And I feel that it's something that that the NCF needs to pay attention to and break that syndrome because other people have noticed, other entertainers have noticed, and they're dissatisfied, they're unhappy. So there's no point having, especially all this new infrastructure, Carry Fester. You have all that, and then have a disgruntled community on whom you will call to populate and make full use of this new what they call expanded creative cultural infrastructure.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you so very much, Glenn. I mean, this, I've sat quite quietly listening because, as you know, one of the things about the show is education. Emma, I think is how Marcia puts it: educate, motivate. Um, uh, I keep forgetting that one. Agitate is one of them as
Agitate.
well. Yeah, I have to write things these days: educate, motivate, mobilize, and agitate. And that's the aspects of this show. And tonight has been a real education, just sitting, listening to you. Because you've had your experiences with the former minister, and there are those who I certainly don't know him, and I learned quite a lot about him listening to you tonight. But certainly in terms of the delivery of what we have expected in terms of our country. It's not just himself. You mentioned about roads, and all of these are matters that it just seems that the government, as I said at the beginning of the show, foul ups, bleeps, and blunders. I don't know if you remember that show. It was a
Yeah, yeah. But
foul ups, bleeps,
if
and blunders. You know.
if I might just add one quick thing, I had it in my notes, but I didn't mention it. The alarms of his chances of success our delivery should have been gone off early. When they made us outlandish to put 10,000 houses.
Yes, yes, absolutely
I
ridiculous.
mean, I'm not indicating the record how there was no clear indication. It was just a boast. And I remember very well the Prime Minister saying, Minister, I'm going to hold you to that pledge. I'm going to hold you to that promise. I'm going to hold. So maybe he has been held to that promise. Remember those words, very. Maybe he has been held to that promise.
Maybe he's
Oh,
being held to the
now we're saying
province.
Louisa. All right,
Yes,
I see
absolutely.
Rose is
Thank you.
ready.
Yes,
I'm ready
she's
to listen
ready.
to
I
her.
know she's chomping at the bits, man. She's chomping at. She's ready to go. Hi, Rose. Good to
Good
have you
night.
in again tonight. Welcome, 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 welcome. Go right ahead.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Oh,
evening,
we can
Rose.
hear you loud and clear.
Yes, good to hear you, Glenn, Mr. Murray, and
Pleasure.
to be here with both of you another time.
Well, you are the education lady. We have just started schools today. My grandchildren were off to school this morning. Told me that they've had a pretty good day. Of course, that's at the schools that are going. One of them is at People's Cathedral. One is at Dighton Griffith. But I'm hearing some things. But I'm going to leave you to engage those matters. And as a matter of fact, the other thing, Rose, is this matter of a new curriculum. And I'm sure you will have some comments to make where that is concerned. So, ma'am, please go right ahead and let your barrels roll.
Thank you, and may take the opportunity, as I normally do, to say good evening to the loyal sons and daughters, all firm craftsmen, and may say women of our faith. And we are looking at education matters. And Pastor Furley, when you said knee jerk in response to something that Mr. Murray had said, that this administration is always into knee jerk responses. I was saying that my subtitle could be Education Matters Knee Jerk Reactions. And when we speak of knee jerk reaction, we mean that we're responding to something in an equally unthinking way. And sometimes I think when I look at education and what's happening, that sometimes the reaction, or often the reaction, could be interpreted as knee jerk reaction. So I'm going to go into this quickly. I'm not going to be talking about the readiness of the plans, the school plans. I am talking more about curriculum issues that concern me. So quickly, I'm dealing with an allergy that at times might cause my eyes to water up. So I might have to ask you, Pastor Purdy, to assist. But I'll do as much as I can. And when I think about education matters, I am seeing matter as a noun, which is a task or a situation or event which you have to deal with or think about, especially one that involves problems. And when I looked at my topic tonight, it is indeed a noun, in this case, a situation, an event that I can identify some problems with. And when we look at matters of verb, it means deemed to be important. So these matters to me deem or are important. Could we see the next slide? And what are these matters? As I said, curriculum, matters pertaining to the curriculum. Now, to, we often hear people say, put it in the curriculum. It should be on the curriculum. It should be taught at school. It is not as easy as that. There is a process that needs to be followed. Everybody has an opinion on what should go into the curriculum, and there are opportunities in other types of curriculum, but other types of the curriculum. Now, when we talk about the curriculum, I'm talking about using the UNESCO definition, and it refers to the design, planning, and sequencing of teaching and learning processes. It includes a statement of purpose, contents, activities, and learning practices, as well as the modalities for assessing learners. That is the a kind of universal definition for all those who are members of the UN and UNESCO. Let's look at the next slide. Now, types of curriculum. There's the overt, explicit, or written curriculum, and that is simply one which is written as part of formal instruction of schooling experiences. The overt, explicit, or written curriculum is the intentional instructional agenda of a school. The curriculum is usually confined to those written understandings and directions formally designated and reviewed by administrators, curriculum directors, and specialists, as well as teachers, and often done collectively. The overt, explicit, or written curriculum is what is formally put down in writing and documented and disseminated for teaching. It's a blueprint. It is authorized. It is prescribed. It is given, and often with input from the technocrats in the various subject areas. Other types of curriculum are the societal, where societal influences, the family, peers, the church, civil society would influence what should go into the curriculum. Hence, we would hear, let's do something on conflict resolution. And you draw from civil society and other sources for that societal curriculum. Often it's delivered by the teacher or persons from society. Then we have the hidden or covert. I'm coming back to that one. And then you have the null, which would be it is there and it's incidental and it's happening, but you don't know it's happening. It just is there. Let's look at the next slide quickly. I'm using the slides to keep focus. Within the written curriculum or the explicit overt curriculum are fundamentals which form what we call the core curriculum. You're following me past the way I'm taking you, which should focus on, in my view, and in reading and just assimilating and synthesizing the information. That core curriculum should focus on functional literacy, functional numeracy, awareness of self, which will be your body, your health, and taking care of self. Hence, we have health science, biology. That should be part of the core curriculum. Awareness of your environment, immediate and wider, which will bring in things like environmental studies, which will bring things like geography, social studies, and understanding of your environment, your role within that environment, and how you relate and interact within that environment, how you take care of it, what is the importance of the environment to you in which you live, which will be your home, friends, family, schools, the institutions that exist. Hence, that core curriculum should reflect those things. So when you go to a primary school curriculum to ask what's the curriculum, you should see reflections of these explicit, not reflections, but these should be explicit. And you know that your child is being taught numeracy, literacy, and something to do with society and something to do with self, care of self, health education. Now, in times past, when persons talk about the 3 R's, you remember that Glenn and Pastor Ferdy, you would hear reading, writing, arithmetic. That was the core curriculum. And they were basically speaking to provide the child with skills, reading, writing, arithmetic, the core curriculum. Over the years, the curriculum has evolved and expanded beyond those 3 areas, but they are still part of the fundamentals of learning and
Mhm.
education.
Yes,
Next
absolutely.
slide, please.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Uh-huh.
Now, um, I think it's the slide after that, Dave. Right. Now, who determines our curriculum? Within the Ministry of Education, from what I gathered on their website, there is a curriculum and assessment section which attends to all things curriculum, which would be the subject matter, the material, the resources to ensure that this is disseminated to the school, from which comes then the syllabus or the syllabi and the breakdown of these content areas into manageable instructional teaching learning components. That's what our so in the ministry we have a curriculum and assessment section. I don't know the manpower that they have. Before we would call them education officers who would go around to schools and critique, support, assist, and ensure that the subject matter is being taught and the curriculum is being followed. Let's look at the next slide, please. Now, let's look at the Ministry of Education, which is now Educational Transformation. And on their website, they say that this is the government agency responsible for the formulation of educational policies and the administration and regulation of education programs. Now, these two are guided by the Education Act of 1982 and other changes that may have been brought about through that act. I still have to study it more and become refamiliarized with it. But I believe that this should be compulsory um, instruction and learning for teachers entering the system so that the teachers would know what are their boundaries, limitation, what they can and cannot do in the interest of within the school setting and in the interest of the student. Now, what is the minister's role? And I think that we need to be clear. The minister's role is not to formulate the curriculum, not to be hands on the curriculum. The minister is a politically appointed person. And given that position, the minister's role is to facilitate the conversion, this is how I'm seeing it, of government policies often laid out in their manifesto, and do so advisedly. Are you following me? Through the technocrats at the ministry into feasible, attainable, measurable programs in the interest of the child, the student, and the
And the nation at
nation
large,
at large.
if not the minister.
Now, if you recall that,
Mhm.
I call it the maiden speech of the new minister, Minister Chad Blackman, on the floor of the lower house. He delivered what I call a mini manifesto. And I question if the floor of the house should have been used for that. And if this is not the role of the technocrats, but he was delivering his government policies, which, when driven, will reflect the government's programs for education. And I am seeing, my concern is some interference with the curriculum that can only be seen as tinkering and tampering. Let's move on some more to the most recent one that raises my concern. And I give the heading responses to weaknesses in the core curriculum, reading attainment at the primary school level. I do not attribute the poor reading levels to this administration only. It has been ongoing for decades. Reading and the teaching of reading existed for the last 51 years, if I could account for it, starting in 1974, when I started teaching. Therefore, it is not a situation that we attribute solely or lay at the feet of this administration, but clearly with the intelligence and the brightness and the fact that they have the majority vote, I keep seeing that I wish I could see more interesting interventions that work, because they have the resources, they have the money, and but I have found that under the BLP government, that education becomes like a football. Let us go back to EduTech 2000. There always seemed to be some experiment with education, some knee-jerk reaction, or um, some hype or some new thing. It was EduTech 2000 back now. It is no robotics. It's no AI. It is now all the critical thinking, all these buzzwords that I find um, that it's these things are synonymous with the management of education under the BLP. And I say unapologetically. So let's look at what's happening now. And there was a press release recently and it is on the ministry's website, called Transforming Literacy in Barbados, Bold Literacy Drive. And in that press release, it states this is intended to address early literacy gaps. To address early literacy gaps, the Ministry of Educational Transformation has launched a comprehensive evidence based initiative for the 2025 to 2026 school year to ensure every child gains strong reading and writing skills. I hail it. Anything to advance education in Barbados, particularly reading and literacy. That's what I studied up to my master's degree. And that is my passion. I hail. But how are you doing it? And I am querying, where is the evidence? They say it's an evidence based initiative. Give me the evidence that substantiates this initiative. Next slide quickly. I am um, concerned with my time. In the circular issued to principals on August the 29th, you see how this knee jerk thing, this late thing that they bring to us all the time. In the circular issued to the principals on August the 29th, the Chief Education Officer, Dr. Ramona Arsha Bradshaw, announced that the traditional schedule of 7 40-minute periods would be replaced by 8 periods of 35 minutes each. My question is, were teachers made aware of this adjustment, this important adjustment? The revision mandates a daily reading period called Time to Soar. And you know they like acronyms. Strengthen our ability to read, which will be mandatory for all year groups. Teachers will be required to teach literacy blocks. What is meant by that? Focus on vocabulary and comprehension for classes 2 to 4. If I don't get to my summary and conclusions and discussion, I am asking, why only from classes 2 to 4? Difficulty and challenges in reading emerge before then, and certainly by the time the child is in infants B, you should be able to identify some of the lack, the areas in which the child lacks that are prerequisites for fluent, independent reading. The fundamentals in phonics, sight vocabulary, um, fluency in reading, left to right coordination, eye coordination, those things should be picked up before the child gets to class 2. Class 2 should be the consolidating and the reinforcing and the concretizing of those early prerequisite skills. Let us look next at this circular. It reads that schools were told to submit the timetables by Monday the 1st. By Monday, I don't know if it's the 1st or today, to implement these changes. You are mandating that it should be in, and then you are saying That takes away the autonomy. I don't even have chance to ask why a separate reading program. Language art should be taught holistically. You shouldn't be telling a child, take out your comprehension book, take out your reading book, take out your vocabulary book, take out your spelling book, take out your composition book. It should be taught holistically, and every opportunity in the classroom should be an opportunity for vocabulary acquisition, word recognition, development, comprehension. It should be not taught in isolation. Let me move on quickly to the next slide. We're soon coming to the end.
Well,
Um,
you've got 3 minutes.
okay, in reality, my discussion is, will an additional period on the primary school timetable daily, will it create a reader or increase literacy and give the results the ministry, was it name, of education transformation is looking for? How are they going also? My colleague, former colleague, Dr. Ian Marshall, whose
Yes, yes.
I know is whose work is research driven, evidence based. He would have spoken to it in the article and he gave it thumbs down.
Thumbs down.
And I
That's right.
have not collaborated or spoken to Dr. Marshall. This is in years. I am asking the question, would another 35, 40 minutes an additional daily schedule, something called SOAR, enable? It would help, but will it create an increased literacy? No, they call it structured literacy. And I must say, this is a very complex model and approach which draws on the ability to teach and grasp the technicalities of reading, phonics, letter sound, relation association. It is very technical and it requires skilled persons and resources. I don't have time to go into that slide where the chief education officer, Dr. Arsha Bradshaw, um, said it would be done. But it is too, to me, hairy fairy. It is just saying we're doing this so. Next slide quickly, please. One thing it can do is make the learner see that period as a punitive measure to get them to read. Do you remember Glenn and Pastor Purdy? Probably it didn't happen in your household. If you were keeping too much noise, if you were outside playing too long, you were here, come inside and get a book and read.
Oh
And
yes.
reading
Oh
was seen
yes.
as punishment, to not fun
Yes.
anymore, and it was unsupervised and you could go through the pretense of reading and you're doing it. How will it be done? And this brings us now to the hidden or covert curriculum, where the child will start to interpret as if the environment, the school environment, is working against him, particularly that child who already knows, I can't read. I have problems with reading. I had it in infants B. The teacher beat me in
Hmm.
infants B. I had it in class 1. Now in classroom, every single day, go sit down and go through this. Why a separate subject? And why I ask only from class 2? Go to the next slide. I am rushed, but I hope that
Well,
the
you're not only rush, you're actually out of time.
all right. And here I am saying that get to the root of the problem. And you see me with a bandage there. Stop
Yes.
putting plaster on the sore.
Yes.
Stop being cosmetic. stop tinkering and troubling and tampering with education like it's a play toy, and your efforts to say that you're transforming education. The daily reading period called Time to Soar strengthen our ability to read. It's not going to solve the problem on its own. And SOAR is a part of it's a management tool similar to SWOT. You know the SWOT. When you look at strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats.
Yes, yes,
I am
yes.
SOAR is a management tool which looks at strategic planning through the strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. I am telling them go back to the drawing board and take that SOAR, which is the management mechanism, and apply it to this SOAR that they want to implement in the classroom for reading. I hail any effort. I am not knocking any effort that will enable um, functional literacy, reading skills, but do it properly.
Properly, yes, yes, absolutely.
No
Well, that's
knee
the
jerk responses, Pastor.
well, that's
Thank you
exactly
so much.
what we have been talking about in terms of the proper planning and proper implementation. And I believe our next guest is going to probably address some of these matters, and as she is, I believe, the shadow minister of education. I think that would be the correct reference. If I hope I would be right there, Glenn, in terms of these shadow aspects. But let's welcome Miss Felicia Dujon to the show tonight. Good evening, Felicia.
Good
Good to
evening.
have you joining us. As you would have heard, we're having a full segment on education, and I think Glenn might have touched on it a little bit in his segment, but certainly yourself and Rose, I would have to say on the show tonight, are the experts in this area. Welcome to the show. Great to have you with
Well,
us
thank you
tonight.
so much. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to your panelists. Rose, you gave an excellent presentation, very thorough. I'm glad that you touched on the Education Act as well. It's important that we remind the minister and this government that there is a legal framework in terms of how education is disseminated to our young persons and as well the protection of children when it comes to education. So it's important that we use those frameworks for the ministry and, of course, for the minister. So to show what are the obligations to education in Barbados. And as we're seeing, particularly for the past few weeks, in particular in today, what we saw where many parents are very concerned, teachers are concerned as to what the ministry is thinking in terms of the maintenance of schools, in terms of the very late disseminations of new policies. It may not be necessary policies with the cell phones, with the reading instructions, and everything else. It seems that everything is being done ad hoc because parents and teachers and everyone else is finding out those things overnight. And that lack of preparation, that lack of ensuring that teachers are adequately prepared, that principals are adequately prepared, it shows a lack of interest in terms of how teachers are to function in such an environment. And it speaks volumes about not only the minister, but this government in terms of how they treat our civil servants in this society and how they treat our students.
Well, I mean, there are just so many things that are wrong, and so many things that seem to be, as I mentioned, knee jerked and not properly planned. And these you take for example, I think they have up on the screen there now. These new rules for the use of cell phones in the educational process in the classrooms. I don't know if there is a comment at some point, Ms. Dujon, that you'd like to make. I think it was Denmark. I keep forgetting if it was Denmark or somewhere in the Netherlands that have gone back to the old-fashioned way of doing things, reading. They have removed all the technology from the classrooms because they found that the technology was not allowing the children's mental capabilities to develop and that type of thing. So maybe you might be able to make a comment with regards to those aspects. And as um, Rose mentioned, I was just looking at it here. the mandatory reading rules, getting the thumbs down from Mr. Ian. This would be Mr. Ian
Marshall, Dr. Ian
Marshall,
Marshall,
Dr. Ian
correct?
Marshall. Yes,
Correct.
yes,
I
yes.
I think what is very important is that we're just seeing all of these policies just being thrown out at teachers, at the schools, without proper kinds of discussions and dialogue. And I think that is very important. How do you communicate effectively with your stakeholders? Because obviously, if you're doing that a few days before school or the night before school, the reopening of school, it tells you about your planning structure. What was the Ministry of Education doing over the past 8 weeks? Where was the Minister of Education? What is the mandate that they're following? Are they thinking of those kinds of policies or overnight? So the reality is that it doesn't seem planned out. It seems very ad hoc, as you said. It doesn't seem that there's any kind of planning that is going behind it. But also, what is the objective of those interventions? If the intervention for cell phones, is it because we're having problems with cell phones at school? What is the issues? What is the objective? And I think that is very important. And what also we have to think of is the task for teachers. So now that teachers need to regulate cell phones in classrooms, because I believe
Yep.
the majority there were already policies on cell phones in schools. I believe
I-
many schools had policies on cell phones. It may not
mhm.
have been a policy in every specific school, but I believe that most parents and teachers knew that students were not allowed cell phones to be used during class periods. I think it was usually after school or perhaps before school. Mostly after school, students may use it to contact their parents, or parents would contact them. So I am not sure as to what the ministry is doing at this moment. And I think
The-
it's the same reason in terms of communication, in terms of allowing the dialogue and allowing the consultation to occur, as opposed to being, that kind of approach. It seems very disorganized. It seems very ill advised. So persons do not know, and primarily, as I said before, the schools, reopening of school and all of these new rules, because some of them are not policies, they're new rules that teachers and principals now have to implement. And so it places an additional burden on teachers because now you have to be the watchdogs for cell phones. And so all of those kinds of concerns, I think it's very important. But in terms of technology, I think it's always that double-edged sword that you want to look at in terms of how can we use technology effectively, because
Effectively,
technology
yes.
does have its advantages and disadvantages. We also have to understand that we're dealing with a different generation that
Mhm.
is more attuned to using more visual ways of learning as opposed to what we knew and what we grew up with. So I think there is this always negotiating part where we have the opportunity to discuss how technology can be used effectively and positively for a young person, but at the same time, let's not remove ourselves from the old traditional ways of learning, because I think
Well,
it's still important.
Doc Nichols, I'd
well,
like to
yeah,
ask a
yeah.
question.
After you go ahead, Glenn, because we have a clip here. I think this is the chief education officer. Is that right?
Yeah,
Ramona Archer, Bradshaw. We have a clip here with her addressing this. But you can go ahead just before we play
yeah.
that clip. Go ahead.
My comment. I think this clip of what remember has to do with the same new so-called new cell phone policy.
Hmm.
But what I want, what and maybe Ms. Dujon can help me with this. What is concerning me is that I am not being given. I'm hearing about policies, initiative, program, but I'm not given any context. I'm not given the research. I'm not given any data, any evidence as to what drove these people to
Correct.
the decision.
Correct.
That
Correct.
is what. And I thought it was fascinating that Rose said she went to the Ministry of Education website to find out something about reading. Why could the government have put the policies, the proposed, they didn't even reading? Paper, except books, etc. You can read online, but largely book. Why could they not have printed it cheaply and circulate so people get to know it themselves and assess it? Why are they hiding information from people?
And I think that's a very important point that you've made when it comes to data collection. We've seen that not only in terms of how well our students or how poorly our students are doing in their various areas, subject matters, We only get that kind of information during town hall meetings or if they have a press conference. And I do support what you're saying. I believe citizens do have a right to that kind of information. I think that's where the Information Act should come out, so that persons understand that they have a right to that information. We should know what the data shows because the ministry has it. International organizations do have it as well. And so I believe that it's in place, and I do agree with what you're saying that that kind of information should be relevant and should be disseminated in the public space and forum as well. But again, as I said before, it's that kind of communication. The ministry, and I do have to say this, if there's anything else that I noticed is perhaps the first in history where I have seen the Ministry of Education have acted as a PR machinery for this government. I have never seen this in the history of Barbados where you have this constant PR from the Ministry of Education when it is about really service to the people. And I think this is what it has changed. I do believe that there's a communication specialist within the ministry, but it seems that it is about PR, what looks good on the media, what good looks good for the government, and not really trying to address the issues that have affected families, that affected our students, teachers, parents, and auxiliary staff, and all the staff within the Ministry of Education. I think this is what is very important. How do we deal with the human aspect of the ministry? And we're not seeing that. All we're seeing is that kind of PR machinery, as if the Ministry of Education is part of an election machinery. And I think that's very concerning to me as well.
Well, let's hear what the chief education officer has to say, and I believe Dave also has another clip team with regards to some comments made by I think one or two of the parents, and if you could probably follow that right up after we hear from from Ramona. Go right ahead, Dave.
I want to draw your attention to the new Ministry of Educational Transformation guidelines regarding cellular phone use in schools, effective September 8th, 2025. Firstly, in our secondary schools, students in 4th, 5th, upper 5th, 6th, and upper 6th levels may use cell phones as tools to assist learning, but only under the supervision of a teacher and with the permission of the principal. This is an important step in integrating technology responsibly into our schools. For all other students and outside of these supervised learning opportunities, cell phones must be completely turned off. Not on vibrate, turned off, and stored securely in students' bags during the school day. It is essential that we sensitize students to the responsible and effective use of cell phones, as well as to the legal framework under the Computer Misuse Act.
That's a nice one to throw at us at our children, our students. The computer computer misuse act. I,
It's quite contradictory. It's quite contradictory. And very dubious in itself because then you're saying
yes,
that they can use it during that period of time. But we have to look at and situate the conversation because we have to remember what a classroom looks like. We have a classroom with sometimes over 20 plus students with one teacher. And so you have to look at the dynamics of that. You now have teachers having to patrol the classroom, ensuring that the students are actually on the site or the link. They're
that's
not on
right.
WhatsApp.
That's right.
They're not in sites where they're not permitted to. So all of those kinds of factors, as I said before, those kinds of policies or rules are not clearly defined. It is very arbitrary and it places the teacher and perhaps
Under
the
some
principals at risk that a student may want to navigate when in other rooms or chat rooms or whatever that it is, or Snapchat. Who is to tell that students are not on social media while they're doing that? So it's either they have the cell phones to do whatever work that you're saying, or they don't have it at all. But you can't have both of it. And that's why I'm saying those kinds of dubious kinds of laws or rules that is being shared from the ministry. It doesn't seem that it was thought out. It doesn't seem that it was researched. There are
yeah,
no clear
yeah.
guidelines to teachers. very much like the grooming policy. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time when the concerns become so heavy of a matter that it has to be re-rolled again. It has to be
Yep.
revamped again. So all of those kinds of concerns, we're seeing a ministry, as I said before, that is more into PR machinery and not focusing on primarily what is needed. What is needed at this moment is to ensure that children are in classrooms that are safe, that a curriculum is not overloaded, and it's in a space where they're adding all of those new areas without focusing that there's other existing curriculum that students need to ensure that they fulfill by the end of the academic term. So all of those matters, I believe that not much research, not thought has been placed into it to see what are the advantages and disadvantages of including such kinds of intervention. Perhaps it may have good intentions, but of course, it is not clearly thought out. It's too arbitrary, so we can almost imagine the state of confusion that teachers and principals may be placed in. And of course, students, because you're telling them they can use it, but only for certain times, and hopefully the teachers can monitor it. So these are the matters I think that's very critical that we need to look at. And again, very short notice that these matters and these rules are being placed.
You know that
Doc-
it's interesting that you would make that comment, because as soon as she said what she said, the thought that crossed my mind is, who's going to police this? How are you going to manage that in the context of a classroom,
No.
as you mentioned, with all those students, one teacher, that the children are actually going to be on the site you're telling them, knowing young people, because we have our own experiences in terms of our homes. Yes, Glenn, go ahead.
yeah, I just want to know what has concerned me in listening to that clip is that it seems as that that's a policy, there are rules, there are regular. What are the penalties? What are the penalties involved? If you under what heading? What if you make it explicit about the usage or usage of cell phones? I think you should have a commensurate, clear outline of the penalties involved for cell phone as against other. I don't think you just call it indiscipline or discipline, or I think those things should be clearly spelled because you deal with
They
a
would have to
specific.
be.
You will have to be not what I'm
Yeah,
saying in the
yeah.
material coming out of that thing, but I want to know if you ask Mrs. Jujon, I get the feeling that you were talking quite early about the short notice, not probably thought of, not probably presented to the public. I get the feeling that some of these programs are being imported from abroad.
Uh,
I mean, they're ready-made. Even Sour Songs to me are a very American acronym, and and I want to know where they're coming from. What was the basis? What are the quality? What was the decision? And what are the costs? Who I remember EduTech, and this sounds to me that we're into another phase of EduTech, and we have to learn from the past. So I wonder if you have in your own field of endeavor, education, Ms. Dutra, do you have any idea the sources? Columbia University School of Education. Why Columbia University School of Education? Tell me why. The basis on which you decided this or that, and just tell me here it is, like it or lump it.
Well, there's different approaches. I would say in terms of that approaches, meaning that it seems that the new Minister of Education transformation is not grounded locally to understand that the majority of our students don't use cell phones during classes. And I think the chief education officer should know that as well. The majority of students, by the time you drop them off from school at school on the morning time, they have the assembly, they go into their classes, then they have breaks. Students don't use cell phones quite often in classrooms. So we have to understand our culture as well. And so if we are going to import that, we have to understand the cultural situation or situation that we are dealing with so that we do not overlap our own culture or try to import or any kinds of policies that may seem a little bit foreign to us as well. And I'm glad that you said what would be the penalty. Because most likely, if a child is using a cell phone, but already they can, because if the teacher is using it, the most the teacher can say, well, you can't serve certain sites, but you can't really monitor that with 30 students in the class. So the most that can happen is that the teacher may confiscate the phone or the principal, and then the parent would have to come in. So I think those kinds of rules, especially our students being our clients, it has to be clearly defined. We have to know why the students can't use it. Is there a high level of our students using cell phones during class periods? I think that's very important. If there is a problem with that, or are students using it after school? And if they're using it after school, then clearly there's a concern there for parents as well, because most parents want to contact
Yeah,
their
the
children
children.
after
Yeah,
school.
yeah,
And
yeah.
we've seen over the years, and if I have to say that, we have seen that not only children but adults use cell phones for various unethical behaviors as well. So it's not just children. But the reality is that we've seen children have used cell phones for very positive aspects, like what happened at the Springer Memorial, at the Springer Secondary School. We wouldn't have known if students did not record. So in times of emergencies, we get to see what the victim is seeing firsthand. But as I said before, I think the ministry need to step back a bit and realize what they're doing, and take some time to clearly thought out, have some consultations with teachers and principals, as opposed to just waking up a morning and saying, these are the policies, these are the rules. Because I'm quite sure many of the principals were not aware of those new rules. And I think it's important that you have that kind of discussions. Consultation is very important. Discussions and dialogue is very important.
One quick comment, Fergus. I would like to say that I wish that Dr. Ramona Brato had given us the basis. Was there a survey done? What were the findings? What were the
None
strengths
of
and
that is
weaknesses?
done.
So
None of that is done.
how did you arrive at this, and why did you arrive at this? And what she doesn't understand, because this cell phones have now become a settled part of the Barbadian society and cultural usage, etc.
Yes,
I remember in the early days, there were when there was talk about not allowing cell phones, people were saying, well, suppose it's an emergency, I want to get hold. But I didn't buy that, because landlines were still used before we had cell phones. But the point is, what is the scientific basis? What are the data? What are the findings? What are the particular problems, and how is this going to stand? Otherwise, we just another rule imposed and move on from one to it. Does not make sense to me.
But you know, Glenn, they don't seem to do anything along this realm of scientific data. You know, we just came through a pandemic where no scientific data is available where Barbados is concerned. I'm not interested in the United States and India and those places. Barbados, we have no scientific data. And the other thing that ran through my mind, and I'm sure you all, where's the consultation in terms of technological experts? Because as you know, when you set up a Wi-Fi system, you can actually, as the administrator, determine who accesses that Wi-Fi system, what areas they can access. I mean, even like in church services and so on, we can determine that persons can't surf while they're using their phone. Because these days people carry phones to church because all of their Bibles and everything are on it. And in my understanding from the technical people, is that they can set the internet up in such a manner that you can only access the Bibles, let's say, you know, through the Wi-Fi facility of the church. And of course, I would assume that this would be something similar where the school is concerned. But then when classes are over, you know, who's going to set that now so that the children can access their parents, you know, because most of them would probably be using WhatsApp to avoid the expenses and costs of, you know, the calls and so on. But
yes, correct.
and these are things I'm hearing nothing about. You know, it's like that knee-jerk experience. But
Right.
Dave has a clip here I want us to hear because this is a parent commenting regarding the start of school yesterday. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay.
It
Good day.
was it's a real rough, to be honest. They're no trying to put up a gear to keep children safe. It's not ready then. It's just give kids a couple more days to get everything in order. Even if your parents have to come and help, but not try to rush the kids back into school so early and it's not ready. That's just how we feel about it.
So they're still doing work on the schools. But I thought the schools were ready. We were told they were ready.
That they were already.
They were all ready. That's what we
Mo-
were told.
That's right.
And that was
More
a
more
clear
than once.
announcement.
More than
Yes,
once too.
yes.
Wow. But how all of a sudden, for the reopening of schools used to be a routine, matter of fact thing in Barbados years ago. Why has it been such a national problem in reopening schools on time and in proper sequence and fully, etc.? I mean, I don't understand how all these societal problems have erupted after having such a long tradition of doing these things well. I think
Here's some more of the parents, And if my mind serves me correctly, didn't we have a situation, Rose and Felicia, that didn't we have a situation? I can't remember if it was a year ago or somewhere in that area where there was a movement of principals that occurred on the first day of the term.
Yeah.
They did not know that they were not
Yeah.
supposed to be at the schools that they were at. I mean, how can these? And that's why Glenn, I refer to what was it? I refer to foul ups, bleeps, and blunders. Because I can't believe that in a organized or institution such as government, and in every area, regardless of whether it's education, agriculture, wherever it is, everything just seems to be disorganized. Everything seems to be done at the last minute. Everything seems to be done in an ad hoc manner. There seems to be no sitting down, no consultation, no planning, no information, no looking at what the possibilities are, what the pros and the cons are. And aren't these some of the fundamental things we do in business? Don't we look at something, what it was again, a SWOT analysis, where before you can get approval for a business, you have to show even to the financial institution's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats?
It
what
speaks of the
what what
leadership.
what I'd like to say, Ferdy, is that I would like to say the same effort that was done in promoting Carrie Festa. Remember how Carrie, you were deluged, you were drunk in information and activity. It was in your brain morning, noon, and night. Why can some of that same approach be applied to these matter of fact, to ordinary Barbadians, to give them a better chance to understand them, implement them, and support them or not? What is so different?
Go ahead, Felicia.
I was saying that it speaks of the leadership. It speaks of the gross disregard for parents and for teachers and for students. I mean, look at parents coming. Some of them perhaps have to go to work and they have to find places for their children today. It breaks my heart to see fathers and mothers in that kind of situation where the onus and responsibility is the Ministry of Education. This is what the taxpayers are paying to ensure that these matters are addressed. And it speaks again, as I said, it's just negligence. It's negligence on the part of the minister, it's negligence part of the CEO of the education, and of course, that they have the responsibility. It's negligence from the leadership. And if the leaders within those ministries do not see the need to ensure that our children are somewhere that is safe, they are at the learning environment which is safe and conducive, and do not put parents in those kinds of situations, it's disheartening. It's very disheartening, and it's a gross negligence on both parts of not only the minister, because I believe right after there was a video with the minister and the CEO walking around in other schools, was about the children and the schools that were impacted today. And the parents, don't they count?
I see Maxine is making a comment here. We will hear of the problem of lack of adequate bathroom and lunchroom facilities at the satellite locations to be used for Wesley Hall students.
No.
Um, isn't there supposed to be a relocation as well of the Garrison School to the is it the old convent? Is it
Yes.
the convent? And what has been prepared in terms of obviously there's going to be a ton of traffic in that area because I think the Garrison School has a
Yes.
larger number of students than the convent did.
Yes.
And what arrangements have been made with regards to the traffic arrangements? And you're going to have a lot of students now coming to school, not necessarily by car, because I don't think the Garrison was a facility where a lot of the parents brought the children by vehicle. And these are the things that, to my mind, you're not seeing a systematic application of things, a systematic engagement of things that would eliminate challenges and problems and so on. It's been 8 weeks. Is it 8 weeks? 8 weeks holiday?
or more. Or more,
You
because
know,
some of those schools were these are existing problems. And I think it's very important that we recognize that at the end of the day, it's the call, the buck stops with the minister. It is his responsibility, it's his mandate to ensure that the schools are ready, the facilities are ready, that they are safe. We cannot have such incidents of students arriving at schools in environments that are not conducive, that are not safe. Construction work is still being done. It places them at risk. We just cannot continue. And again, when you look at the mandate of this government, we have seen in the last 7 years 4 ministers of education,
wow.
and they
And
still cannot get it right.
don't they have two now?
Yes, so
Don't they
that
have
was
two
right.
ministers, two ministers
And
in the
it's
Ministry of Education?
it's the incompetence. It's in the incompetence, and as we've seen, it's not just in education. It's in agriculture. It's in housing. It's in health. It speaks of the leadership. It speaks of the
Wow.
leadership and the incompetence of the leadership, and the constant excuses that are being made as to why things are not done the way that it should be done, as to
And
why projects are not being completed.
the other side of it, Rose, is this perspective of no apology. No, nobody comes and says, well, we're sorry. We had hope that such and such and such would have happened, but for whatever reason it didn't happen, and we want to issue an apology. We are going to try to correct it by da 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 da. There's absolutely no. It's like total disregard to the citizenry of the country and to parents. And I mean, parents go out. The thought that was going through my mind is a lot of parents don't have their own transport, so they're having to take one, two buses with the kids, and then you find yourself in these situations. You have to now try to organize the children back in an area where you live because you don't have anybody where you are.
Okay?
And it's just unbelievable.
And not forgetting they may have to leave work or take the day off to deal with that as well. So
Yeah.
it's the insensitivity and lack of empathy for parents
Your
and
For
teachers as well.
your thoughts, Rose. You've been quiet there in the corner, but as you've been hearing this, and incidentally, I just like to say to the audience, the loyal opposition, those of you that are viewing, that we are at the point where you can call in with your comments, express your views. How do you feel about the matter of cell phone use and or lack or lack thereof, the lack of preparation? We were told that all of the schools are ready. Everything is beautiful. All is well. All is great. So when you call in, you can comment on any aspect that we've been dealing with this evening, but you could also, give your views on the matters of the cell phones, the preparation, if you have a perspective on curriculum, the whole aspect that Rose shared about, whatever is your area, you please feel free to call. 236-7000 is the number. WhatsApp, please, I believe is the preference. WhatsApp at 236-7000, and we'll take your calls, your comments, your questions to the panel this evening. Yes, Rose, just quickly, your comments on all that you're hearing. If you're not muted, but we're not hearing you, you might have to hit that switch. Still not hearing you as yet.
Ferdy, can I go while?
Yeah, go ahead while
Yeah,
we're
I just
getting
want
her
to say
sorted
that
out.
I myself would have made reference, and somebody said earlier about the minister's statement by the Minister of Education,
Yes, you did.
Educational Transformation. I did right,
Mhm.
okay. But I thought, and I put that in contradistinction with what Kurt Humphrey has not done with crime prevention. But it has dawned on me since then, as I reflect on it, in a ministerial statement, in our system, according to our standard rules, standard orders, you cannot debate a ministerial statement. A minister makes a statement, and that's it, like the law. You can't debate it thereafter. in other jurisdictions, you can debate a ministerial statement, right? So and if you notice, the ministerial statement gave what, about 45 minutes, nearly an hour statement outlining what he was saying, educational transformation. But then thereafter, it has been the chief education officer who's been thrown under the bus to deal with the issue. I think that is wrong. I think the minister, particularly given sense that there's no debate in the House of Assembly, or there was none in the Senate. It would be none in the Senate on the ministerial, on the prime minister, on the minister's ministerial statement. I think it is be incumbent upon the minister himself to go and sell his policies directly to the public. Come, announce a subject, have a full press conference, not where you not a press briefing where you tell you where you want to hear you report. Come, maybe we can discuss education transformation, and come prepare with your official to answer the question of the press or the public or the press speaking on behalf of the public. I think they're hiding from the public.
We have a call on the line here. Glenn, remember your last word. Rose, just also keep, we have you in mind just to make sure we can hear you. But good evening, caller. Welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Please go right ahead and make your contribution. Hello? Hello, we're not hearing you, caller. Good evening. Okay, we've probably lost them. Yes, Rose. Let's see if we've got you yet.
Okay. Blessed good night to the
Okay,
panel.
yes, this is our caller. Go ahead. Good evening.
What I am concerned about, well, what my thoughts tonight though, is what I call FTR, and I call it forward tinted resignation. And
forward thinking resignation.
Our former Minister of Housing, and now is he is still being paid as a minister? Is that so?
No.
He's still being paid as a minister?
No.
I don't believe so. I think once you leave the cabinet, you're on.
He has resigned from Minister of Housing and Lands, and I understand that some person else has now taken over that ministry. Have they taken over that ministry for free? Or are they being paid what the former Minister of Housing and Lands was paid? Was this person elected by us? Now, the reason why I said forward tinted resignation is because the minister did not resign from the party, because as I was corrected, if he had resigned from the party, there would obviously have been a by-election, right? So I'm thinking, what's the whole use of resigning from the party when my what do you call it?
But he hasn't resigned from the party, huh? He's not resigned from the party.
He has only resigned from being a Minister of Housing and Land, but he has not resigned from the party, which means
he has not resigned from Parliament.
His retirement, right? That's the word I'm looking for.
He has not resigned from Parliament. He has not resigned. He has not given his seat as a member of Parliament. He's still a member of Parliament.
No,
I don't think he's hearing us, Glenn.
Okay.
And we are actually paying another person. Another person is on our payroll. So this is what I said. It's a forward tinted resignation, and I need your thoughts on it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, caller. Yes, Glenn, go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, Minister Sutherland, he was a minister who would have been paid at a higher level than a backbencher, an ordinary member of Parliament. All right. He has resigned from being a minister. He falls down to the level of backbencher. But at the same time, a previous backbencher has been elevated to minister. So the money that would have been saved, in arguing the money would be saved by Minister Sutherland's by Mr. Sutherland's resignation back and gone and sinking the level of backbench will be reapplied to the new minister. So therefore, there's not necessarily going to be any major costs in that regard. And he has to understand that Mr. Sutherland resigned from the ministry. He did not resign from being an MP, a member of parliament, elected by the public. The only body the prime minister cannot fire him as an MP.
As a parliamentarian, no,
Can't.
she
No.
can't.
Only the public can decide his fate as an MP, either immediately or in the future. So those are the facts.
Correct. And I trust that answers your query, caller. I hope that answers the query you have. I'm just checking to see if we have another call. Rose, do we have you yet? Let's hear if we have you. There's a switch somewhere you're supposed to hit, and you're not finding that switch. Um, Felicia, we saw, or
Is
we're
it
seeing
better?
here. We are now hearing you. Yes. Just quickly, your comments on what we've been sharing with regards to the infrastructural aspects of the system, the cell phones, these aspects, the whole preparation of the schools for the students returning. Hello, are you hearing us, Rose? Because we are not hearing you again. We lost you again. All right. While we're trying to get her back, this picture that I'm seeing here on the screen, it looks like construction is in progress while the students are at school. Felicia, is that something that we would want to see parents would be comfortable with in terms of their children attending school?
I'm sure there's a breach in terms of safety and security. They should not have any kind of construction work being done while children and minors are present in that environment, and especially and teachers as well. I think there are clear employment rights that teachers have not to be in an environment where construction is taking place. So I think it's important that the union highlights some of those concerns. I think that teachers have their rights, students have their rights to be in an environment that it is safe. And it's important that we're seeing that parents are taking an active role. We need to applaud our parents for standing up for the children. That it is not an environment that the children belong in, and I'm glad that some parents took their children home because you want your child to be safe. A few parents did tell me that they had to leave their children with the neighbors today because they had no other alternatives in terms of childcare. So it's
Hmm.
important that we think about that, the kinds of challenges that the ministry is placing parents at, and the total, as I said before, the total disregard for parents and the challenges that they have to go through. So we saw it the last few weeks. We've seen parents working very hard and tediously to ensure that children were prepared for schools. They went and get the books, the uniforms, and everything, only to show up and the ministry is not doing their work. It's very disheartening. Very disheartening. At this point, we still have to be enduring that kind of leadership, that kind of poor management and incompetency that we see from this ministry. And I think it's about time that members of the society ask the minister, particularly of education, to stand to get this act going, because we cannot continue that way. We cannot continue every academic term that students and teachers and parents have to be, going through that kind of gaslighting, because it's the same kinds of issues. We really need to stop and reevaluate how we've been doing things.
And especially to, my mind goes really to the cost involved where parents are concerned, and I'm thinking mostly of the fact that I think the majority of children travel to school by public transport as opposed to by private vehicle. and
Yes.
and I'm just thinking about, a person coming from one part of the island to the other, having to pay one two buses to get to to get to the school and then finding this situation. We have another caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Please go right ahead.
Good night, Dr. Ferdy, and to the panel.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
I'm getting straight to the point. Mr. Blackman came into Parliament, sorry, I should say he came into politics in a very big way. Had a big election, big money, big fanfare, big drums and everything. And I find that Barbados and Guyana, they're trying to outdo each other in twinism. I call it twinism. Why you say that? Guyana, a multi-billion-dollar, with resources or whatever, the schools were in the same deplorable state. And the same thing with all the monies and the trips that are countless. And somebody just the other day was trying to add up, because everybody's not as good at math, but some people were trying to add up the amount it would have cost for the last
current trip
to Algeria. Right, but that has nothing to do with the plethora. Hear the word, the plethora of the others. Just that one, we are just talking about that one. And if you could find because the truth is, nobody in CARICOM can dictate to Barbados that they have to hold CARIFest. Nobody can dictate that they must have the cricket festival, the cricket World Cup either. What I'm trying to say is that the priorities as it relates to the finances, it leaves much to be desired. And then, with that said, you mean that the minister can come into office in such a big way, and that big way that he's coming to office, those push-up windows. I went to probably 4 or 5 primary schools because it was just moving different places. But one of the last places I remembered was St. Clements. St. Clements influence before it went to the new school, the English Empire. But where I'm going with this is that schools in today don't have those kind of old-time push-up things. Dr. Ferdy, you need to find or to inquire what was the amount that Parliament spent as it relates to upgrading their AC and stuff like that. So you are telling me that parliamentarians who have a big salary can make themselves even far more comfortable, and the children, if you watch the media, it says the parents were just really as it relates to that their children would have to enjoy that kind of so you were telling me that I'm traveled. I'm sure when she's traveling with for sure. I know for sure that they're off. Everything is off, something else as well. So where are we going with this to put all talk aside? Parliamentarians cannot live in luxury, both socio-economically and environmentally, and whatever else you want to call it. And the children who are, in my opinion, the most vulnerable in the community have to bear and grit under such circumstances. Are you there?
Yeah, we are listening to you.
Right. So I don't care if you want an election hands down or hands up. Having money that you can throw up in the air and throw down in the air. The issue is the big. Show your big way of winning the elections in your work. The same way how the minister that has just departed. Hear the word departed. His post is now finding time to find time for his people in a big way. He is finding time for his. He has departed his duty, but that was poorly done. But he is finding time in a big way, in a bigger way, for his constituency. But the Minister of Education, he came in a big way, and he is in office. So he should use that big way that he came into office to show how he's going to make the children of the country much comfortable. After all, he is in AC. When he is talking in Parliament, the children should tell him, "Listen to me. You are talking to us from an AC, whilst we are in heat." Okay. We are in hot rooms and rooms that are not conducive. You had anything to reply? Because I don't want to. I don't want to keep you all talking. I don't want to keep talking all the time.
Oh no, we're just waiting for you to finish making your points, and then I guess
Okay,
the
but
panel will.
my
Yeah.
last point. My last point is this: the people of Barbados need to stop with this kind of pretty talk. If 15,000 plus people can march up and down, you know, as 1,000 plus people, 15,000 plus. A full.
We're losing him. We're losing him. I think we have lost him.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. There was a sorry. You're there?
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
Are
sorry
you
about
here?
that. There was a certain lady I think I saw in the crowd, in the 15,000 plus people. Even if she could have barely walked, she was there.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that the the prime minister cannot believe that she is to come into office with like force. She is to come into office with force. But opposition voices must creep softly and they must be on tiptoes and that sort of stuff. No, shut. According to you, we shut down the place, man. Shut it down, because the problem is that I think that the opposition voices are being too cute. Opposition voices in Barbados are being too cute and dandy. And my last my penultimate point: Errol Walton Barrow could not have got what he got out of the park with this kind of hear the words gingerly politics. Gingerly politics does not run despotism. I think that Barbados have to understand that, and the sooner that Barbados understands that, the sooner that you will see certain things fall flight. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's a lot to cover there. I couldn't even take all the notes quickly, so I hope you all have been writing as well. Thank you so much, caller. Thank you very much. Yeah.
The best thing
Comments?
in a big way. In a big way.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. God bless. Well, guys, I hope you all are taking some notes. Anybody want to jump in there and respond?
Well, of course, I will agree with the caller, and I think that citizens have to remember that their rights, and if their rights have been infringed by the government, they have every right to demonstrate and to speak out and to use every opportunity and avenue that they have to ensure that those rights are not infringed upon. And it is true that we've seen the minister, and he had his ministerial statement. One of the statements that stood out is that by 2028, we will see the full force of the social or education transformation. But we haven't dealt with the very basics, ensuring that school reopens on time, ensuring that children are safe. But we're speaking about those big ideas and transformation, but the basics are not being taken care of. And as I said before, it's a lack of empathy from the government, it's a lack of humility to understand that you're servants of the people and we are there to serve them. And so what we're seeing is really that this government believes that it's not accountable to citizens, it's not accountable to parents. So parents should be walking up and down in the hot sun trying to ensure that the children are in school and they are safe. So these are the kinds of concerns that I think that the parents and the society need to recognize when a government is no longer people centered, if they were ever people centered. Because to be people centered is to put the people first at all times. And we're not seeing that. We're not seeing this from this government at all. It's like people and citizens, children, parents, teachers are second thoughts. Everything else comes before them, and we've seen that. And I think it's important that parents continue to fight for the rights that the children have access to education that is free from any forms of disruptions, any forms of any environment that is unsafe for them, and they keep fighting for their children. I wish to applaud the parents for what they did today to stand up for your children, speak up
Yes.
against those that intend to harm them in all various ways, whether directly or indirectly.
Indirectly. Rose, I don't know if we've got you with us now. Let's see if we can hear you.
Doesn't seem so. If not, I can jump in here.
Just let me give her a chance, and
Yeah, okay.
let me give her a chance there. We are not hearing you. We are not hearing you. You went out and came back in, but I remember the last time this had happened, there was a switch somewhere that you had to activate, and because we did hear you for a moment, and then you dropped back out again.
Mhm.
Okay, still not hearing her. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, I just want to say one of the reasons why I'm so particularly keen on this confusion, unnecessary confusion, and back and forth and unsettled state of reopening of schools is that at one time during my career, when I was a minister, I once acted as Minister of Education. And I acted at a time when it was a by-election in St. Thomas in 2001. And that electioneering period would have involved the reopening of schools. So Prime Minister Arthur put me to act as Minister of Education. And because I like structure and process and systems that I can follow logically or rationally. I like systematic things and structure and process matter. In order that there were no embarrassments to the ministry or the government during the by-election where everything is cannon fodder, I would have a meeting every morning between 8:30 quarter night. By 9 o'clock, I would have had a meeting, a report from the permanent secretary as to the state of preparation, any difficulties, any issues, what you want. And we would earn out that early in the morning, we check at the end, and then any issues you call me if there's an emergency during the day. But the point is that we avoided any hiccups, any confusion, any strikes, any demonstration because there was a systematic, a structured process of dealing with it. It seems these basic principles of management and getting things on project management don't exist anymore in this day when people want high tech and chaos,
Yes,
disrupt, and
yes.
start over and start. To me, you can't do that with education or with any other important issue of life.
Yeah. Well, Felicia, I wish we could have kept you a little longer, but I understand that you have to be out of here. You should have been out of here a little while ago, I think. But we want to thank you so very much for
Thank you
taking
so
the
much.
time to be on the show with us and to express, very often people get bogged down with partisanship. And I have become weary of that. I think the time has come when we look at what is in the interest of our country, the interest of our people, and if persons are doing the right thing, they should be commended. If they're
Correct.
doing the wrong thing, they should be chastised. It is as
Yes.
simple as that. And I am not going to waste my time debating persons about any party and any of that nonsense. I really don't have time for that. I simply believe that if persons have something to contribute that will benefit and the advancement of our people, our children, our country, that it should be expressed and it should be given consideration, regardless of
Thank
their
you.
partisan connections. So we want to really thank you for being
Thank
here
you so much.
and being objective about it. And that is what we really appreciate. So thank you so very much. Let me
Thank you
release
so
you
much.
so that you're able
Thank you
to
so
get
much for
on to what
having me.
you have to do. You're
Thank you so
most
much for
welcome.
having
It's
me.
been a
Be
pleasure having you.
safe. God bless.
Thank
Good
you too.
night.
God
Good night.
bless. Good
Good
night.
night. Bye
God
bye.
bless. Well, Glenn, it's just myself and you left for the rest
Oh,
of the night. We lost all of our ladies. I don't know how many of the
it's,
of the viewers
it's,
are going to want to stay with
it,
us because we.
it, I think that occurrence probably says something about you, not me.
You mean I chased them all away? Oh my
I,
goodness. Well,
or
look,
they
I
left.
see, I see Rose has come back here.
Okay,
Let's
let's
see if
try
we've
again.
got her. Let's see if we hear her this time. Rose, let's see if we can hear you this time.
Can you hear me?
Yes, don't
Yeah,
touch
it's loud
anything.
and clear.
Whatever you do, keep your hands up in the ear like this.
Surrender.
Yes. Yes, Rose, we can hear you. I know there's been a lot that has transpired since we were asking you to make your comments, and I certainly want to give you the opportunity to contribute within the context of all that you've heard shared tonight.
Um, so many things were coming to mind or have been coming to mind. Um, Yesterday, as we were driving around, I noticed one school, two schools actually, under floodlight, not flood, under lights, still painting. Two primary schools still painting. And that would have been around 7:30.
Mm.
And I said, this shouldn't be. And I remember jokingly saying, children will be getting paint on their new uniforms tomorrow. And then I went up by St. Luke's, Brighton. And that is the school where the chief education officer had visited with the principal.
That's where my mother was principal.
St. Luke's, Brighton.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
My mother was a
next to St.
principal there.
Luke's St. Luke's Church,
But before they changed
Anglican
over
Church.
there, before they went over there, the school used to be further back up the hill, where I think there's a facility now for
Yes,
training mechanics and so on. It was back up the hill then. Go ahead.
and from the outside, I mean, it was welcoming, nice, canary yellow
Yes,
and green
yes.
paint. It was clean. It would be a place where I would want to enter this morning. But I said to myself, the same way they could give nice Barbara Green rose for the Carrie Festive Village on property that the government has not bought yet, and they're negotiating a sale or price for, that they could have done the parking area that is across the road from the school and make it nice and good. Amazing 4 acres isn't all that long Barbara Green track. But they seem to do things and not complete. They seem not to be proper project management. But St. Luke's, Brighton was really well, um, looked good from the outside. Now, a question I may put to Glenn: is it only the Minister of Education who is responsible for the schools in terms of its readiness, or shouldn't the MP of that constituency go through the constituency to see the state of the schools in his constituency, bearing in mind that students from his constituency will be attending that school? Because I would like to think that, say, the MP for St. George North would have visited the schools in St. George North, which would be St. Jude's, which would be St. George Secondary, St. George Primary, that would visit those schools and give a tick off and say, well, it's ready. Or is it just the Minister of Education who has that extensive load? Or could it be delegated also to the sitting MP as part of his or her responsibility? Glenn, how does that work?
You're muted, Glenn.
I think ideally it should involve both entities. And if a good Minister of Education and a good MP would seek to work together on it, I think they should be double checking and backing up each other. But the minister would have the primary responsibility because he's responsible for the spending of the money on the schools. Yes, policy responsibility, but a good plus the Ministry of Education has a project team that goes out, and so there's a whole machinery at work in place. How
I
it is
was
put to work is a different matter, but
I
the
was just about
system
to
exists.
I was
Go
just
ahead,
about to
Freddie.
ask you. No, I was just about to ask you that, Glenn. Wouldn't he have a team? Because I made a note of it here. Wouldn't he have a team of people, or shouldn't he have a team of people who earlier, not on these last minutes, 2 3 weeks ahead of schedule, or even more than that, that should go out to review what is happening at each school, primary, secondary, and report back to him. In
That's right.
terms of advising him as to the status of things, getting explanations as to why maybe things are behind schedule. Is it the availability of material? Is it the things not in stock? Wouldn't he have a team of people that should be doing that?
The system is there. First of all, the principal and the senior people should walk the plant, inspect the plant, get reports, any difficult report to the ministry. If there's a board report to the board chairman. So there's a system that can be used to make sure that people are engaged and know what is happening. I suspect now the matters that's not being that people everything's being left to one other for somebody else to do it. But the system, the mechanism, the positions exist. The ministry actually has a full-fledged, has officers who are engaged in it. They have I forget what they call it, technical team, that look after maintenance and projects, etc. So it is, but it is how that system and personnel and resources are put to work to the benefit of the system.
And don't all of the schools have a board of directors, Glenn?
Yeah,
Don't,
yeah.
don't the schools have a board of directors who in themselves, because of their positions, I don't know if they're appointed or what, but because of their position, should be visiting the facilities and seeing how work is progressing, that type of thing. Don't they have that?
That, that is the way it should be. But sometimes it doesn't always work that way because sometimes the teacher who says this is my school, the head, she says this is my school, and they don't want you come and check on me. So there's
Well,
territorial rivalry. It
no, but
happens. It's human
yeah,
behavior. It
it
shouldn't be that.
happens. It happens, but that is
It is,
childish, and
of course. But
Glenn,
they
I
should
thought
work
we had
together. They
I
should
thought we
work
had
together.
passed those days, man. I mean,
It's
we need
not.
some major paradigm shifts in this country. We keep operating with this
But
colonialistic mentality.
what colonial? I was
No, when
colonial.
I say colonialistic, I am
What that
talking
means?
about I am talking about how the slaves would have done things because they saw
But
the
that's
master
also
do something.
but
I,
Ferdy,
man,
with all due respect,
no, that's
human
all right.
being,
That's all right.
or the circumstances said, but human behavior is still human behavior.
Yeah, I
You,
know, I
as a
know, I
student of
know,
the Bible,
I
all the
know,
things you read
I
in the
know.
Bible, you are seeing today too. So human behavior has not changed. So people are
But
susceptible to doing the same kind of forces they did 100,000 years ago. It is how you manage the situation. It all depends on human intercourse, management, human relations, personality. So that is where mankind should be at its best. That is why we're supposed to have superior intelligence.
it's like we are lacking leadership. There. I heard a proverb many years ago. I don't know if you know of this one, Rose, where there was a group of people that went into a forest to cut down the trees, and the manager, the person who's the manager, is the person who delegates, and the unpacking of the tools and all those kinds of things to begin the process of cutting down the trees. But the lead is the person who claims the tree and tells you if you're in the right forest. And it's like we have a major, and it seems to flow from the head, because as you say, Glenn, I'm supposed to be a biblical student, and I believe it is the 33rd Psalm where we're told that the whole aspect of the anointing oil flows down from the head of Aaron all down his beard, all down the
Right?
of his garment. And it seems that the same mentality that exists at the top has made its way all down through the system, where there is a lack of leadership.
All good leadership,
Good leadership.
right?
Not management, leadership. Yeah, Rose, go ahead, because you're the person
I
who
hope I
asked the
helped you. I
question.
hope I made sense to your role.
I I think that where leadership lacks, where we look for it to come from, that society should have a voice. And I am saying what has happened to PTAs. We are, what is the PTA representation then at it's Wesley Hall? The PTA should be a strong voice representing parents and children. And we are hearing individual parents, but where are the voices? Where are the teachers themselves? And I think too, we're hearing, yes, in all fairness, the children are, and the parents have been disrespected. But in many ways, I am seeing disrespect tossed to the teachers. The lateness in which things
Are
have
done.
been done and
Yes.
are being done. Back to this whole program in the primary school, the additional subject on the timetable. And this was sent out by circular on the 29th of August for the principal to address it and make changes to the timetable. And when I studied the 1982 Act, timetabling is not, if I read it correctly, is not mandate. Timetabling is not a task or responsibility or role of the Ministry of Education. It's the role of the principal, who in some cases may delegate it if at a secondary school to his or her deputy principal, and at a primary school to the senior teacher. But I know at primary school, we would sit and we would work it out ourselves, and the class teacher, and take it to the principal, who would make adjustments, who would work through it with us. And then there would be a master timetable, which if there's someone from the ministry who comes, could see the master timetable for that plan. And I am, when I heard that this was mandated by the ministry, I am, I it suggested to me that the autonomy that the principal of the primary school used to have or may have had, that is now kind of being controlled. And already the curriculum and the timetable is overloaded. There is so much to be done within a school day. And I think that they have not taken into consideration. I hope that there was collaboration. I hope that there was discussion amongst the teachers about this initiative and the demands that would be made on them.
I
And
want
I don't get the impression that it has
to
happened.
happen.
If
I,
you look, it is not clear if in that press release the CEO is talking about, and Glenn, yes, this program is it's done in the US of A. It's a program that has been done internationally. A model of it was done based on the press release, done in Jamaica, targeting students who have who are dyslexic and targeting students with attention deficit disorder.
Disorder.
I am not clear from the press release. Glenn, you could read it. You are a PR person. You are a journalist. Once a journalist, always a journalist. Like once a teacher, always a teacher. Once a preacher, always a preacher. If you read that press release, Glenn and Pastor Ferdy, it's not clear that program that they are offering in the schools and making mandatory.
But I
So
want to
I
ask.
am saying that I am seeing a level of um, neglect. I don't want to say disrespect, but a level of not engaging. I'm speaking euphemistically. A level of not engaging the stakeholders. This too should be, I do not think that any right thinking Barbadian like ourselves here would knock a program that seeks to enhance and seeks to improve um, reading levels or any educational attainment in Barbados, but how it is done, how it is being done, and these knee-jerk responses, these
Well,
knee-jerk
I wanted to.
responses to education.
Before you jump in there, Glenn, I want to ask a couple of questions. You mentioned Rose, that this was done in Jamaica, or this model was used in Jamaica, and that it was used with children who were challenged, dyslexic and so forth. Do we have the scientific outcomes of that exercise? That's the first thing. And then the second thing I want to ask is, and I stand to be corrected, but I've heard across the Caribbean that we've had declining CXC results. And I'm just wondering if there has been any scientific research done into the reasons for these declines, and going back and in doing engaging scientific processes to find out whether what has been done to examine these aspects. We do have another caller, and we have a few minutes left. We do have another caller, so let me welcome you, caller, to the Marcy Week Show. Please go right ahead and share your views or make your comments, please.
Good night. How are you all doing?
We're doing quite well,
we're good.
thank you. We're good.
Thank you.
Well, I sit and I hear the Prime Minister and the ministers talk with the diaspora, but the diaspora is not happy with what the BLP is doing in this country of Barbados. I came back to Barbados on July the 5th, and I mean, I've been coming back like twice a year from Atlanta, Georgia. And I know that there's a dark cloud looming over Barbados because, years, probably 6 years ago when the BLP took over power, there was a lot of transparency. Things was running really smoothly, but now there's so much like hidden agendas. And we speak about the contractors, and somebody asked a question about how the contractors are chosen. And I was saying this to my girl today. Now, you were brought up in the industry, construction industry. I taught construction for 19 years and 6 months. 5 years and 3 months I taught construction at the Samajama Presbyterian before I went to America. And God was gracious to me that I went back into teaching for 14 years and 3 months. Now I come back here. And, like I said, coming home every year or every twice a year, I'm seeing the government knocking buildings down, pushing them down, closing up buildings, and I mean, that's money. Because it is cheaper to maintain than to build. And we have a whole lot of buildings about the place. Now, I spoke about the contractors earlier. Now, the contractors in Barbados, they came up in maybe one of the disciplines. Let's say masonry or electrical or whatever. They're not general contractors. General contractors are forte in a whole lot of disciplines. Now, I went to speak to one of the ministers about 2-3 months ago when I came back here. You know, and these people are so antisocial. And when you say antisocial, it's like pulling teeth, sitting in front of these ministers and speaking to them about about how things are running at Barbados and in the constituencies. No, I'm a OSHA trainer. I'm also well authored in more remediation. After I worked for a company for 3 years in the States. After Katrina hit Louisiana, hit New Orleans, I was sent into New Orleans, and I'm wondering why they are just closing no buildings because of things that could be fixed. You know, in between time and to get people back in the building. You have a building there and Bridgetown that has been shut for months, maybe years, I don't know. But somebody told me that that's going to come down soon. But why are they falling buildings? That's why I don't understand. Now, about the contractors, and as well as the ministers and the government, now, management have to be taught. These people don't know how to manage. And they cannot multitask. Because I find out that a lot of these ministers that have portfolios don't know how to multitask. Like I think Mr. Blaine just said something about the minister that resigned or somebody have time for his constituent. No, you're trying to tell me that you can't multitask, making sure your constituents are happy and still hold a portfolio in government. Why are you a minister? What is the prime minister doing? Give these people portfolios that they cannot handle. I mean, there's so much things I could speak about on this program. Barbados does not have a safety system. I pass up the road today. You have the waterworks digging some hole in the half of the road, and there's no flaggers. So to protect the community, the people that are driving. So it's up to you now to get around how you can. I drove across Walter Road the other day. There was a leak. Now the people who dug up all the mold from down the hole leave it in one can that had no reflectors on it. Now, all of these things that I listened to Mr. Warren the other day about somebody hit his car with a don't know. I mean, all of these are things. Barbados has no safety system. I mean, I know I'm rambling all over the place, but I'm just saying that it's like the carrot before the horse.
Yeah, you're just pointing out the deficits. You're just pointing out the deficits in the area, and that is really what I'm seeing. Yeah.
But the ministers cannot minister. And the watchman, who is supposed to be the prime minister of Barbados, that's supposed to be monitoring and making sure that look, Miss Shantia Badshaw, the Honorable Shantia Badshaw, Deputy Prime Minister of Barbados. Now tell me if this is supposed to be happening. My girl asked me about 2-3 weeks ago, it empty the shut down. That's a serious question. I said to her, babe, but I don't live here. I'm trying to move back, but things looking real sticky. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been away 28 years. So, but I remember when I used to drive through. I mean, I worked for MTW for 22 years. I taught 5 years and 3 months of that 22 years at the Polytechnic. Now, you used to see groups in the vicinity, in the community working, and you don't see nobody for MTW. What happened?
Hmm. Yes, yes.
Disappear. So okay, if you don't see anybody in the facilities of the community, so what I know they lay off a lot of people. So what are the workers that are still there doing? That's my question. And
Thank you.
they
Thank you.
are working on the inside.
Thank you so very much, caller. Appreciate it.
You know, I heard her when Miss Felicia was running for the St. James North or so, I can't remember.
North.
She
St.
said,
James North.
I know we have potholes, we have. You're not supposed to have potholes on the highway.
No proper maintenance. No proper maintenance. But caller, we want to thank you so very much.
That's your road of you know, you drive the highway, you got to be swerving for potholes. What is MTW? What is the minister of MTW? And she's the deputy prime minister, so she can't manage it. She can't multitask either. We're in trouble.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. We appreciate you calling in and sharing your ideas and sharing your observations. And I've been making notes as you've been sharing. Thank you so much for calling. Really appreciate that.
A lot of stuff going on that's very, very wrong.
Yes. And I'm very glad to hear the diaspora in overseas, wherever they're located, are paying attention to what's going on in their home country. I'm very happy to hear that. At least somebody overseas is doing that. Yes. Thank you so much. We appreciate you all. Thank you. God bless you too. You know, guys, as he was speaking, you know, I watched a couple of comments on the chat. Someone noted the administration is taking directions from off island, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that tonight at the beginning, but I left it off. But this is a fact, and I'm going to share some facts with you in a future program to show that. And the aspect of multitasking, and I am asking really about delegation. Are there no persons capable of leading, capable of taking responsibility? In 2000, and I think you already recall 2004. Remember Hurricane? Oh dear me, what's the name of that hurricane again that struck the Cayman Islands and
Not
devastated?
Elsa.
Not Elsa, no. Oh, anyhow, it'll come back to me. It struck the Cayman Islands. I was I was running and
Oh,
pastoring a
okay.
church here in Barbados at the time. And, you know, for about 3 to 4 years, I traveled out of Barbados every 2 weeks and spent 3 weeks in Grand Cayman at the expenses of the church up there because they needed my assistance to manage the humanitarian aspect of what was happening through their church with the Assemblies of God in the island. And my church grew in my absence. It grew, Glenn, in my absence. That is really not a phenomenon that you hear of very often when the leader is not around. But I had taken time in training people, in equipping people, that I did not have to be there. I did not have to be present. And one of the things I learned from John Maxwell is that any good leader works himself out of a job. A good leader does that when he develops himself to the point where he's no longer needed because he's done such a good job at equipping the persons. And I'm just wondering, because leaders are not born, they're made. And I'm just wondering, you know, aren't there people in these ministries that can be trusted? I mean, Glenn, you've sat in those offices, in those places for a number of years, and there must be persons in those areas that can be equipped, you know, to do that. You know, I didn't even realize the time that it is, but I'm just going to ask you, Glenn, there must be people in the ministries that can be delegated, things can be delegated to that they can be trusted to carry out. You're muted. You're muted. No, you're not unmuted yet. And okay, great. You remember? I think Senate was it John
For
Williams?
for the
1 minute, Rose. Glenn, you're hearing me, Glenn? Hi, Glenn. He seems to have frozen. Hello, Glenn.
Yes, I think we that something went on there.
Something went on there just now. But
Yeah,
I think at the time that this would have been 2004. I think at the time John Williams was Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office. I stand to be corrected. I'm sure
yeah,
you will give
yeah,
me
yeah,
right.
yeah. He had replaced me.
Yes, and I reported back to him all of my findings in Grand Cayman, because as you know, during Ivan, that's the Hurricane Ivan. During that time, you couldn't get information in or out of the Cayman Islands. They had shut down all of that stuff. But I was asking you, I don't know if you had heard me. Aren't there people in these ministries
So
that are capable,
public servants or who?
public servant, that you can delegate things to, that can be trusted to carry them out?
Yeah, yeah. But it all depends on. I'm going to echo, but the leadership of 30. Not everybody can lead.
Correct.
Not everybody. There's some people who can say, "Okay, I like to move from here to that point," but they don't have any idea as to how to get there.
Hmm.
They can
Hmm.
only see the beginning and the end. You have to
Right.
know about
The process.
process and
Yeah.
structure and order and sequencing. All that is involved.
Yes. Yes. Well, I tell you, I mean, all that has this has shown really is the tremendous incompetence of this administration, its inability to plan properly, to lay out proper policies, to have proper dialogue. There seem to be an administration that seems to think they can do whatever they want to do, and they don't have to give an account to Tom, Dick, or Harry. And really and truly, that is, I think that is got to the point where Barbadians can no longer tolerate it. And all I can say to those of you watching the show, and those of you who will watch it in the future, is join us for our march on the 20th of September. Marches held, marches show to a government, numbers of people show to a government that the people are not making any fun. And what happens is that they represent votes. When you have 15,000 people on the street, my marketing knowledge and experience tells me every person represents seven others. That's 7 5. That's 105,000 people that 15,000 people on the street represent, and that is votes for a government. They will pay attention. Well, Glenn, I'm going to give you and Rose your closing comments. We are 4 minutes after 10. Give you your closing comments. I'm going to let Rose go first, as is customary for us gentlemen, to let the lady go
Oh,
first.
thanks for reminding me.
Rose, your closing comments for tonight. You're muted. Okay,
you
great.
hear me?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, please. Um, you asked a question earlier, Pastor Purdy, about declining THC results regionally, and if a study has been undertaken. I'm not aware of it, although I'm hearing in other countries, territories such as Guyana and Antigua, where you are getting, and Belize, where you get students who say 10 and 15 and 16 CHCs, and get them back at ones and twos, but we don't hear that here in Barbados. And maybe that could be an undertaking of CHC or CDB, those two regional organizations. CHC, who regulate and give oversight to the exam, and CDB, who fund the education sector in the various territories. They should conduct a study to account for the resources that are put in, or CARICOM can undertake a study of that sort, which would look objectively at what's happening within education as it relates to CXC. My next quick quotation is: an MP doth not a minister, a cabinet minister make. We find that a lot of these MPs who go into the House are happy to be made cabinet ministers, particularly in this government, this administration that seem to just reimagine the cabinet and add more and more and junior ministers and all of that. And MPs do not make have good ministers. Some of them are what you call it, um, square pegs in round holes. And they should allow the technocrats, the excellent public servants, to advise, give oversight, and guide them in the interest of the public purse and in the interest of policies and programs and the public. And my last tongue in cheek remark: when the new Minister of Housing and Lands was interviewed, he said that he is bringing transparency to housing, that portfolio. And my facetious comment to myself, and I answered it to myself, wasn't there transparency under the last minister, the minister who resigned? Wasn't there transparency? What can we extrapolate from that remark, that he seeks to bring transparency to the ministry? I do hope that other persons will seek to bring transparency to their existing ministries. And I speak particularly of the Ministry of Education, and being a good diplomat, serving at the highest diplomatic post and posting overseas, does not a good minister of education make. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Rose. We really appreciate your input tonight on the show, your education again. We had a tremendous amount of education coming from you and from Felicia. We want to thank her in her absence as well. And of course, to you, Sir Glyne, your
Okay.
closing comments.
Um, just like Rose, I thought that term used by the new Minister of Housing regarding transparency very instructive, and I thought the very same thing as you. But I was a little quizzical about him, because here was he, sworn in less than 24 hours, had not been to the ministry to be briefed, to read a file, and he was already given ideas of what he can do before he get there. I was amazed. He hasn't said it. It means somebody must have been told him about the problems, and therefore that's why he said it all. But I wanted two quick things. I found it instructive that we can have the open school to be such a symbolic affair when the Prime Minister was bragging about Carrie Fester, bringing global excellence. But the excellence that you want to advocate for Carrie Fester is not the norm in Barbie. This RF thing start, they don't go well. All right, that's it. That's life. But you're prepared to settle for it for Barbados, but to impress the world, you want to create artificial excellence. My last point is that where education is concerned, and I think Rose did mention about yes, uh, some of these programs suggested policies are coming from North America. Yeah, I just wonder who is getting paid. Are there grants? Are there if they're worried would have heard about it, somebody there for us to get paid. But most of all, when they are brought to are they Barbadianized? Have they been reconstructed, reconfigured, reoriented to suit the peculiarities of the Barbadian society and culture and all these, or they're just being imposed on us lock, stock, and barrel, which will be a recipe for further disaster down the road. That's it.
Well, thank you so much, Glenn.
That's
Again, we are
Thank you.
grateful for all of the input from all of you tonight and from, of course, our callers. We want to thank our callers as well for contributing to the show tonight and all of you, the comments that you're making. I'm observing them. Some are coming up on the screen. We want to thank you for all of the comments. And of course, I want to thank Marcia and Dave, who've been working in the background, doing such a tremendous job. We always, sometimes, at least sometimes I do, forget to thank Dave for his tremendous work. That he does in the background with all of these presentations and so on. Thank you, Dave, for all that great work that you do. I was going to look it up, but I remember some time ago, and I think Rose and Glenn, you all will remember this statement: everything rises and falls on leadership. I think it's a John Maxwell statement in terms of his conferences on leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. So that if you see it rising, you can contribute the rise to leadership. If you see it falling, you contribute the fall to leadership. And given that all we seem to be seeing in these days is falling, it would suggest to me that our country lacks leadership, particularly when I observe the fact that our prime minister is rarely in our country. I would like somebody to calculate how many days in a year the prime minister is on island in Barbados, how many times she speaks compared to how many times she addresses matters overseas in international forums. And as she addresses matters in international forums, is she advertising and showcasing our country? I have my doubts, given that there is a reluctance on our part even to wear our national flag. And as we began this show tonight with the national anthem and with the national pledge, I would want to believe that our leadership and our government would have pledged itself equitably to our country and to our flag. It would appear to me that this is not happening. And as such, I believe we need to reassess the leadership of our country. And I close with that. Thank you all for being
Good
here with
night,
us
everybody.
tonight.
thank you. Good
And good
night.
night to you,
See you
Glenn.
later.
Good night to you, Rose. And again, thank you both. And thank you, Felicia, as in your absence, for being on the show tonight. Good night,
Good
ladies and
Good
night.
night.
gentlemen,
God
and God
bless.
bless you.
Rest well.
Education, education, this is the foundation. Our rising population needs sound education to be recognized anywhere you go. You gotta have your certificate to show. To enjoy any kind of happiness, knowledge is the key to success. Children go to school and learn well. Otherwise, later on in life, you gon' get red hair. Without an education in your hand, your whole life will be pure misery. You're better off dead. For there is simply no room in this whole wide world for an uneducated boy or girl. Don't allow idle companions to lead you astray. To earn tomorrow, you got to learn today. Every year somebody there